ready.
All right, guys. Welcome back to another week. We are live on In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio. We're really excited to be here this week with Danyka Dunseith of CannaCollective Incorporated. We're going to talk soil today, guys. So if you guys are into soil remediation, soil rejuvenation, there's all sorts of big words we're going to discuss today. It's just something that I don't think we talk about enough in the cannabis industry is our soil. We talk about a lot of our live soils and indoor grows. We talk about super soils. We talk about compost mixes, and we talk about a lot of things to do on a smaller scale. But when it comes to industrial farming across the whole globe, we're seeing some significant issues, right? And then we also are going to discuss industrial hemp a little bit. So if you guys are into industrial hemp, hemp fiber, hemp seed, hemp feed, I think we're going to discuss a lot of it today. And we're really excited to have our friend from Canada on with us again. She's been on the show before. We're hoping to have her on last week. So hopefully if you guys didn't mess up too much, but we had a great show last week with Rick Naya, who the great grandfather of hybrid cannabis, who stepped in. And we talked about some soil. We talked about a lot of his projects. And if you guys want to check that archive out, you can find it in our YouTube page. And it was a great show. Today, though, we're going to talk to Danyka about soil, about what she's doing and all the projects that she has going on, which is she's got a lot of fun stuff going on, guys. So we'll start the show off. Danyka, say hi, explain to everybody who you are, where you came from, and how you got here.
My goodness, it was a dark, stormy night. No, my background is primarily, like I was saying before, public relations, communications. I got very fortunate to land a director of marketing position at a startup CBD company in Toronto. I'm a dog with a bone. I was very fascinated to learn all about our good friend CBD, but more importantly, where it was coming from and how that impacts what the end result is. So I then took over my 100-acre farm. Since then, I've implemented a global agricultural company. Our company is very fortunate to meet so many incredible friends. Now we're going back to the root of it, and we're really looking at what our soil is able to produce and what our soil is capable of, given all the right TLC, so that's opening up a really beautiful world of everybody seriously paying attention to agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think the biggest thing we need to pay attention to right now?
What you're putting into your soil. Absolutely. Because people don't think about that. And I mean, for Niagara Grow Up, that's coming up, and we have a really beautiful conference in Canada, and they're now paying attention to what we're putting into our soil, how that affects terpenes, and how that affects the end product, depending on what you're doing. And that is what I love about this, is it's a grand mal scale of what's your goal? Are you trying to make tinctures? Are you trying to feed cattle? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Then we need to know what we're putting in originally to get to that end product. And I mean, like anything, right? Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is that consumerism has shifted. And I say this time and time again. The more giant consumerism and the more smart consumerism, where people are becoming acutely aware of what's in their food, what's being fed to their cattle, all of that is definitely shifting into what's in our soil.
I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. When it comes down to it, a lot of Vermonters, a lot of people in the Northeast, and a lot of people that I work with, whether it be residential farmers who are just, doing a couple of their own cannabis plants, or whether it be full-scale industrial setups, whether they be indoor commercial cannabis facilities or outdoor hemp farms. I can't count how many times I show up to a greenhouse and they say, "Hey, look at this this blue dye that we're using. Yeah, we're providing this to our plants, and then we're going to put it right into the drip system that's going underneath all of that black plastic out in our field. Why? What are you doing? It's not acceptable. When it comes down to it, a nice soil starts with what you put into it. You can take a soil that has been detrimentally fertilized over the last 30 or 40 years, and you can fix that, and you can bring that back to a natural organic soil. It's going to take time, but it's definitely worth it, not just for us and for our own health, but also for the environment.
Right. I mean, I think we're seeing. We just saw a video that just came out recently on Netflix, right? Kiss the Ground, right? Which talks about soil, and it was a very interesting approach because it really didn't even mention hemp or cannabis within the documentary, right? But it did bring up a very great question. Our industrial topsoils, right? How we are, between the machinery that we're using, the chemicals that we're using, what the government is supplying and telling our farmers what they can use is really killing the topsoil, right? How do we get that back on an industrial level? Danyka.
Me and Coach. That's actually, it's a very interesting question. I got blessed with my personal cash crop that I converted. It was a typical haying corn. So really the biggest issues that we were looking at were nitrogen and depleting the soil. Mm-hmm. So we added some magnesium, a lot of lime, all that good stuff. Whereas other clients that I've had, we are actually converting a pine tree, which was used for Christmas tree farming, into industrial hemp, and their soil has been so depleted and nothing is given back. So what I tell my clients is, and especially, given the budget and what their timeline is, let's do a half crop of hemp. Sorry, I was talking phytoremediation at the same time. Let that do its good thing. But then Joseph is bringing up a good point. What do we do with that depleted biomass? So that's a whole other thing that we're trying to figure out. How do we compost that? Because we're obviously
well, you wouldn't have to compost it.
More.
I mean, check this out. Instead of composting, it's not for human consumption, obviously,
right,
because you're pulling out the bad nutrients, but you can turn it into building materials.
Yep.
Okay, so I actually love that you brought that up because I was speaking to somebody about like a huge hempcrete project that I'm spearheading here in Southern Ontario.
Well, not just hempcrete, love. You've got hemp 2x4s too. You can literally build almost anything you want out of hemp.
I think it really depends on what you use your plants to pull out, whether it's an oil, whether it's a chemical. You do have fossil fuel based petrols that are, these guys can use. That's something that could possibly go into like a hemp asphalt. Like, has anybody even discussed something like that? Where I think when you do projects like that, there's an end result for it all. A lot of people are just burning it right now, which is I think the problem, because we've talked about this before. Everybody on this panel has talked about this before. What do we do with it? Where does it go? Last week we discussed the fact that you could be making it into ethanol. You can actually make it with an extract using ethanol, and then that will also help save it and be reused somewhere else. But like Chef brings up a great point. All hemp isn't about edibles or consuming, right? It can be used in plastics. We're seeing glass. We're seeing everything from our sneakers to our jackets, and we were talking recently too, and a lot of people don't realize this. Henry Ford was also brought up to be the guy who made a hemp car, right? Who ran on hemp fuel, right? And we were all just talking about this recently, and we're seeing like BMW and a lot of these other car companies who've been using hemp in their cars since 2014, 2013, right? Whether it's door panels, cushions, materials, right? Because it's a much durable material. I don't think people realize that these auto industries and these other industries are actually looking at this. We just saw a plane recently that they've made out of hemp. It's obviously a much stronger material than some of the materials that are offered out there. And the best part is we can grow it, right? Like every 6, 7, 8 months, we have more product, right?
I'm sorry, I definitely have to interject on that because to your point, and it's really incredible, and I really want everyone to look this up. I had the beautiful chance of looking at this car model. It's a BMW i3 electric, which is fully fueled on hemp biofuels. It's incredible. Yeah. And it was actually on on display at the Grow Up Vancouver conference. So everybody had a chance to see it. And it's still, if you're into cars, it's a sexy car. But what's sexy is the environment.
Mm-hmm. And look at it this way. First and foremost, let me say this. We shouldn't have to, worry about, oh, hey, what's in this food and what's in this crop. There's no reason that it should have ever gotten this point. I'm going to say the terrible, terrible M word that, we all hate. Monsanto. They shouldn't have ever been around to begin with. You understand? Well, let's try this hormone. Let's not. You know what I'm saying? Let's do things natural. So in order to basically go through and help heal and help correct what, human beings have messed up over hundreds of years, we can use one plant. Are you kidding me right now? Like, that's literally solving everything. They're like, okay, wait, we need to get rid of fossil fuels, hemp fuel. We need to get rid of, concrete and all this. Okay. Hemp houses. Oh, we need to do this. Okay. We need to fix the soil. Okay. Hemp. I mean, seriously, it's amazing. Not even mention the medicinal benefits.
No.
Exactly. There's I don't see a downside. Hungry, happy, sleepy. And you telling me my house is now mold resistant? Yeah, I'm down with that. You telling me I don't have to pay for gas to go from here to Vermont? Yeah. Right.
Especially used as an industrial, like you guys brought up 2x4s earlier. We've seen across social media now that these guys are making 2x4s, which, I mean, why not, right? We can make them out of plastic. We can make it out of any kind of fiber. Why not hemp, right? And you raise a great point. Using hemp, everything becomes,
it's eco-resistant.
Yes, thank you. You have a lot less worries to consider, and then now you have insulation that can blow it right in. They're using it like concrete, so there's a lot of different options there now with the wood and everything else that we're seeing. It's really going to create a whole new market. But when you look at the trees, how long does it take to grow a tree? How long does it take to grow a field of hemp, right?
Are we talking pine trees? Are we talking for consumption? Because that's the sad thing, is for a pine tree to come to Christmas tree fruition is about 7 years.
Yep.
We got 120 days on a viable hemp plant that's going to give so many more resources than, in the nicest way, a pine tree. I respect all plants, but our good friend hemp is better.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, you can use it for paper. You can use it for so many different things. I just don't. I get completely sidetracked when people are wondering why or what, or they like, hey, you can make this out of hemp. Yes, it's a plant. It's cellulose.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's an amazing thing, dude. It's crazy because like 10 years ago, we probably wouldn't be having these conversations, but damn well that the pioneers that have fought tooth and nail to get us where we're at today, that's something that they were like conceptualizing, but they never really sadly got to see to come to fruition. In this new day and age, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you, cannabis is becoming mainstream, which is a good thing and a bad thing. We want it at the same time, we don't want it, and so it's just one of those things where it's like, too much can be, too much of a good thing can be bad for you, and I mean, hell, unless it's cannabis. I mean, worst case scenario, I have low anxiety, take some CBD and you're riding smooth again. So it's cool. But
right.
No, but hold on, to your point, I fully understand what you're saying, where it is a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that we're all Canada legislation, you know what I mean? That's definitely opened up a lot of doors, but at the same time, it's opened up the doors for marketing.
Oh, absolutely.
And I always go back to this. Marketing is making a killing right now in plastic. If it was all made out of hemp, I'd be a happy camper, because cool, let's create the infrastructure and the volume to satisfy that consumerism. So it is a good and a bad thing at the same time, where people are kind of rushing to the wall. Now it's legal, yay, let's buy marijuana, let's do that. But we need to look at the root of this, and we need to look at, where is it coming from? How are we doing this? What industry are we building? Because truly that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we don't want it to end up like the paper industry, if you will. You know what I mean? We don't want to. It's funny because if you go back in time, you're like, oh, hey, my jaw hurts. All right, cool. Eat this leaf or smoke this leaf. Hello, cannabis, right? And then you fast forward, it's like, eat this pill or drink this tincture, and you get the idea. And then, we're kind of going back to the natural regression. Tim, happy birthday.
Hey,
you, Tim.
Happy birthday, Tim.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
But so we're starting to go back to cannabis for all kinds, everything from medicinal to manufacturing, honestly. And that's amazing. And the cool thing is like, let's not be dickheads about it. Let's do this right. We're giving you, cannabis has been giving a second chance, and we can't really afford to mess it all up. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, I genuinely completely agree with that. And that's the thing, right? People are confused about that. And we are being given a second chance. That includes farmers, recreational, product manufacturers, all that kind of stuff. But I feel like everybody seriously needs to take a seat back and say, okay, how does this actually work now? How are we going to do that? And Joe touched on it briefly before about cattle feed. So if we're going back there, it was, I've said this a million times, it was genuinely mandatory for anybody who came from Europe or anybody coming into North America to bring X amount of hemp or hemp rope and all that good stuff, because we knew that was the push. And that's your point about paper mills. That's what pushed it out. Then I speak about cattle feed. So specifically in my area, in Southern Ontario, our dairy farmers are seriously suffering right now. And a couple of them have come around because I'm like, hey, let me sit down and discuss why hemp is more beneficial for you to feed. Why before Prohibition in 1920 in Canada specifically, it was mandatory that you fed your cattle that, and that obviously gave us the feed because we're all eating whatever meat. If you're a meat eater, that got pushed out. All of these farmers in my area specifically are losing a lot of money and they're losing their mind. So they slowly started stopping by my farm. They've seen my crop. They've seen what I'm up to. Now we are shifting into a point where they're asking more questions, but I still don't think that there's enough attention on what that means for a cattle feed and how that's going to boost the economy. And honestly, everything that we're trying to get going is going to be in a cycle.
I mean, you look at it this way, like, okay, check it out. You are what you eat, period. Yeah. So how are you going to sit there and eat a filet mignon or any kind of steak from a cow when you know that cow's eating some bullshit? It's going to carry over
all the time.
Shit, you know what I mean? That's the point of it. So if we're feeding them hemp, which we've proven across the board time and fucking time again that it has medicinal benefits, and you're feeding that to the cow, which is turned into the steak, you're now medicating, if you will, quote unquote, very usely learned or used there, but you're medicating yourself by just feeding a cow some hemp. You know what I'm saying? That's
so true.
That just makes sense to me. Why would you bitch about that? Not you, them.
Honestly, you know, no. If we're really going to get deep into that, I would like to pull up the statistics of how many people got sick during the time that it was actually needed to feed their cows that versus now. And I'm not trying to say the C word, but COVID.
Right.
How healthier would we have been as a people if we continued that? Obviously, like, it's proof of concept.
Oh, absolutely. And it shows that, hey, listen, those dreams that you thought that cannabis could cure all is that's happening. You know what I mean? It's funny because we've put so much belief first and foremost, and and research and stuff into cannabis that we're like, hey, we can build houses out of it. Oh, we can feed it to cure, the people with cancer. Oh, we can feed it to our cows to make them, it's just like, come on, man. We can
cow feed. I mean, we feed our cattle hay, right? I mean,
absolutely.
we feed it hay. We have unlimited supply of byproduct. I'm sure Tom and anybody who grows will talk about what do we do with this byproduct? What do we do with the stalks? What are we doing with everything that we processed or ran through and we just pull the buds out of it, right? Most of these guys are burning it. Again, we talk about that a lot, is getting burned because it's just a byproduct. Now, that's something that we can obviously dry out and throw right into a feed. And we talk about our endocannabinoid systems, right? Let's talk about that for a minute. If our cannabis has all these CBD, CB1 and CB2 receptors, and animals can eat it healthily, right? I've seen we've seen cats eat it, we've seen dogs eat it. There's all sorts of sayings out there that's bad for animals, right? But it's a plant, right? So, if typically if it's bad for an animal, the animal won't eat it, right? It kind of knows, right?
Again, you should probably, it's worth mentioning mammals in that. So reptiles don't have an cannabinoid system. I mean, that's for some people, they're like, well, he said all animals. Yeah, we weren't talking about the alligator that's attacking you, Miss Johnson. Calm the fuck down.
Well, most reptiles,
like,
reptiles aren't herbivores either. You know what I mean? So they're not going after plants anyways. They're going after the animal that ate the plant that we're talking about right now, right? We want some herbivores on here, right? So I mean, there are studies though, right? I mean, we've talked about it last week. We brought up a couple studies last week on the show. Up to 4 or 5 years ago, there have been states that have implemented hemp feed into their systems, and there's also universities now that are studying the benefits of it, if there is or isn't. You know what I mean? My question is, what's the cost? You know what I mean? How do we offset the cost? If you watch again any of these documentaries, you'll see that our whole corn industry in America is just killing our industrial farmlands, right? It's killing our soils, it's killing our whole markets, and we're seeing people give up. Like Danyka said, we're either giving up farms or we're giving up all these different things for either a hemp or a corn grow, right? Because that's what the government wants, right? They want, now we have it in fuel. So now there's a more demand for corn than there ever was, right? Because we're making ethanol out of it. But let's talk about ethanols. Can we make more and better ethanol out of cannabis than we can corn?
Well, Joe, before we get too far, I want to touch base on the just being able to provide hemp to your animals as far as feed is concerned. I work with a lot of Vermont farmers that come to me like, Tom, can hemp save our farm? Because the dairy industry, especially in Vermont, has just been going downhill day after day after day.
Saving Canada, baby.
Yeah, but I think that's also
you can't make any money, and people are like, "Oh, should I go get growth hormones? No, stay away from Monsanto. Stay away, stay away." Oh, well then, how do I save my farm? Oh, well, you have this extra couple of acres over here. Let's turn that couple of acres into hemp. You can turn the CBD into a viable oil to sell as medicine. And then anything that's left over, all of the byproducts that you can then take that, dry it, not compost it, turn it right in with your hay and feed it right back to your cows. As far as your pigs are concerned, turn it in with their slop. They'll eat it and they'll love it. When it comes down to it, it doesn't take that much effort or any cost really at all, other than a handful of seeds and a little bit of time and effort on your part to be able to produce enough hemp to actually be able to feed your animals as well.
Okay,
Listen, sorry.
I have a question about that, because we are seriously hitting the dairy farmers in Canada are equally freaked out, which is why I advocate, hey, here's a cost-effective, far better resource. But for you guys, do you have certain regulations and legislations around? So if you're a hemp farmer, can you take 100 acres, harvest it, and then give it to the dairy? Or what does that process look like? Because we're seriously lacking in Canada. Yep, Canada, you heard me, I said it.
Well, I think Tim's the best answer for that, but I would imagine you can use it for whatever you want, right?
Yeah, so as far as the US, as far as the US is concerned, when it comes down to it, especially in Vermont, you can pretty much sell the hemp for any purpose you need, or give it away for any purpose you need. We give away a lot of our stocks and byproducts to medical patients that will use them for salves and balms, or to people that want to use them to feed their pigs or their cattle. We don't have enough cattle or pigs of our own to use up all of our hemp stalks and everything, but even the stalks can be run through a combine, broken up into chips and fed right in with the feed. Even your dog, take a hemp stalk and hand it to one of your dogs. If they take it from you,
absolutely. The problem is that our sweet government, that everyone in the US is excited about our federalization, they don't let us do it that way. It still needs to go through our CTLS. So the seeds need to be cleaned. It's a 3-step process to even feed to the cattle, which I feel is daunting to farmers.
Unfortunately, I think now that the federal farm bill has the federal government more involved in hemp, I think we're going to see a lot more restrictions like that on a federal level. Luckily for us on a Vermont level, though, Vermont is really, really good about helping their farmers and doing everything they can to fight back against the federal government with things like that. So I'm hoping, for the most part, we're not going to see too many issues like that. But Joe, I don't want to cut anyone short, but I am going to be having to be leaving pretty soon here.
Yep. No, we know you've got a little one with a birthday today, so it's a big birthday party
I
day
do,
today.
yeah. 8 years old today.
Great birthday to have today.
Yeah, and it's Tim's birthday too. You know, last year, Tim, I said, you know what? It's Tim's birthday today. I'll never forget Tim's birthday because it's the same as my daughter's. And guess what? I forgot your birthday again, Tim.
Well, happy birthday to another fellow Libra.
And happy birthday to you. Absolutely.
Here's the thing, though, Tim. He super reminded all of us, so he super did his birthday diligence. We good.
Nice.
I think I Facebooked him today. Who knows? I mean, we are talking about soil, and I do want to get. I know Tom has to leave here shortly, so we want to get to a segment right before he has to leave, so we can introduce it. But you know, we're talking about our plant, all the awesome benefits that we can use after it. But now the question is, who's taking it? Who's picking it up? We were talking about our farmers, right? Converting their farms over. Is that a trap? I mean, we've seen a lot of farms in the last 2 years have serious issues with converting their farms over because they don't know what to do with the product afterwards. You know, like what you guys just said, they look at the numbers initially of the pros and cons to growing hemp, and then they have a bad season or they have an issue, right? Is that also one of our bigger issues right now with our hemp farmers, is the fact that they did jump ship maybe a little bit too soon without a little bit more research or proper structure for that?
I personally think there's a lot of issues with the new hemp farmers starting up with just not having the proper knowledge getting into the game, whether it be not having enough knowledge growing the crop itself, or not having a buyer set up beforehand, or not knowing what you're going to turn your product into at the end. You know, if I'm going to turn my product into a CBD oil, I'm going to use one strain. And if I want a nice, viable, tasty flower, I'm going to use something entirely different. It all depends on your end goals. And if you're not doing that proper research beforehand, you're going to have a bad time.
Right. No,
I would add on not understanding the industry, not understanding that you simply can't just ship this stuff over state lines and expect everything to be fine. Not understanding that you just can't use LegalZoom boilerplate contract to the cannabis industry, not understanding the nuances and the pain in the ass of payment processing, and all of the other headaches that go with it. A lot of times people don't understand the industry. That strikes them, it just compound problems. And a lot of people thought it was a gold rush. You know, after 2018, prices were high. Everyone came in 2019. I'm going to buy 50 acres. I'm going to plant 50 acres. 50 acres, huh? And how are you going to harvest those 50?
I'm okay with it. But a lot of people aren't in that position.
Well, Danyka, you make a great point. You did it, right? It worked out for you. But now my next question is, before everybody goes.
No. Totally to Tim's point. That's why I was a guinea pig, right? I was in a position financially, land, geography, all that good stuff. I was in a position to be able to do that. I would not suggest that to anybody who doesn't have a buyer.
or any idea how to grow a crop.
I grow and I sold, but that was a Hail Mary.
Right. And then our market, these markets that we have in different states, everything is a different value. And Tim made a great point. 2 years ago, people were growing hemp and selling, beautiful hemp at $1,000 a pound. You're not getting that now. You know what I mean? We've been talking about the CBD bubble since I think we started the show, and no one's ever really listened to us.
I can get really good, awesome grown hemp here in Michigan for $50 a pound.
Yeah. Yeah, how can you beat that if you're a small farmer? You know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of different things.
This is what we developed here. Craft smokable.
That's the only thing to beat it is the volume.
Yep. Right. Well, that's it. We have these huge farms. It's going to end up being like corporate America again. We're going to have huge companies, huge farms, and people that can cut that dollar down because of the amount that they can do. And they can do that, you know what I mean? And the small craft guy who's really doing a great job, who's being conservative, who's putting the time, energy, and money into it, it's probably going to be worth the money he wants for it. We'll never see it. How many times did we see this last year in the market where everybody wants, again, $1,000 a pound right now, today, but in 3 months from now, you're going to talk to them and they're going to be right down to $300 a pound because they can't sell it. Like you guys said, where is it going, right? And now there's a flood on the market of hemp every time this year because this is when the crops are coming in. How do you beat that? What do you do?
Put me in, coach, because you don't beat it. This is the problem, and this is what I've been speaking about forever and ever. There's no need to beat that. What we need is to create a better infrastructure system. There's nothing bad about creating more volume or more genetics or more that. No. What we are lacking in North America specifically, and I'm talking Canada and I'm talking the US, we are lacking that infrastructure to say, hey, you're making hemp paper, great. We have the facility to do that. We have all that set. We don't have that set in place. So then that is what is making crops mitigate to $10 a kilogram. And it's bullshit in my
There's no checks and balances system.
No. Well, I mean, again, we talk about the FDA and the DEA here in America almost every week, right? It's a really confusing time. People are still trying to get what's going on straightened out. Like Thomas talks about it, like, you know, Tim talks about it. If what they say happens, it's going to be impossible to be in that industry, right? But again, we talk about, you know, people are growing for CBD oil, right? What are we doing with the byproduct? Why, you know, industrial hemp in America hasn't been prevalent because there's nobody that can process it, right? We only have a couple different processors in America, so it doesn't make it very prevalent to do here. And it's cheaper to get done in China, and they're growing hemp and processing over there, and they can sell it back to us cheaper than our whole system here. So there is a big issue with that. Canada, I don't know how many hemp processing facilities that you guys have for fiber. But I'm sure it doesn't make a farm very eager to go to industrial hemp when those options aren't right there in front of them, as you know, CBD oil is. And then, like we saw last year, a bunch of companies came in with the objective to hire a bunch of farms to do these processes for them, and then never paid it out, right? So there's a lot of tricks in this industry right now because due to lack of restrictions and oversight and you know, fundamental laws that we have to follow. Right now we're following guidelines. State by state's different. You know, like, you know, I was talking to Danyka, and even like, you know, the way Canada works is vastly different than us. You have certain strains you're only allowed to choose from, correct?
Yes, correct. And that's to touch on your point about China and how you're saying that China can do that and all that good stuff. I've been on calls for the last week. They still can't get anything into Canada for me. Carminola genetic has been stuck at customs. And my question to that is, when we're all going through all of our new regulations and, you know, what's appreciated in Canada versus America, all of that, China is completely different as well. So they can send us the seeds, but it's not necessarily legal for us to plant them. Canada specifically right now only has 52 cultivars, which, and again, to touch on your point of how you see different genetics yield different CBDs and what's good for that soil, getting back to the root of it.
I think that's where the term pheno hunters comes into play. I mean,
yes. Oh my gosh.
I'm a pheno hunter. You know, and it's funny because like every dealer now says that to sound more important, and then it's just like, bitch, are you really though?
No,
you're
but
like,
that's
all right, cool,
so real,
right? And then they're like, yo, let me get some of that African black magic, and you're like, that wouldn't even grow in our climate. What are you talking about?
That's a big thing I think we have.
I get into the soil, and I'm like, well, where did you do a COA? Like, tell me more about your magnesium and all this. And they're like, what? No, we just grew it. And I was like, well, then it didn't grow the way the black African magic or whatever.
Well, what it is like, you know, these phenome hunters, they'll start growing this plant in their basement or some shit. You doing what they're normally doing. Well, the problem is if you're doing what you're normally doing and you're hunting phenomes, you're not going to have the same result.
It's no bueno.
No. If you're using seeds, you're never going to have the same result. That's why, you know, we laugh about the seed issue. Me and Tom has been talking about this for how many years now, the seed issues that we see. Either you're getting, you know, you're buying feminized seeds that really aren't all that feminized. You're buying seeds where the genetics really aren't what they say they are. Or we've seen it, you bought hot seeds as a hemp farmer. What do? You know what I mean?
Speaking of Thomas got to get going to that birthday party.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say, we got to get him to introduce his segment.
Yeah. You gotta spray them in the nicest way.
I do.
That birthday juju.
So Joe's gonna roll my segment, and I'm going to tell you, we've got a segment about hard candy. About 2.5 hours ago now, I took about 120 milligram piece of hard candy, and you're gonna see how I make it right now.
That's why you're so mellow.
For that.
I want you to video document this lifted party.
That sounds like a birthday present to me.
Right? It's just candy, right? We love candy. All right, guys, let's get into Thomas's Growers Guide segment this week. It's going to be on candy. Where Thomas is going to be leaving us here, so he won't be back when we get back. But happy birthday to the family, the daughter. And we appreciate you, Thomas. And here he is with the hard candy.
See you guys next week.
Cheers.
Good man.
Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching here, and welcome to Growers Guide, your weekly beginner-friendly cannabis tips and tricks. This week on Growers Guide, we're going to be talking to you about cannabis hard candy. That's right, making hard candy with cannabis tincture. It's super simple and easy to make and super delicious. So let's get started. You should now know a quick and easy way to make cannabis candies.
That was the fastest video ever.
Starting today's segment, beginner-friendly cannabis tips and tricks. This week on Growers Guide, we're going to be talking to you about cannabis hard candy. That's right, making hard candy with cannabis tincture. It's super simple and easy to make.
Joe, unmute your mic. Joe, unmute your mic.
I'm unmuted.
Once the candy is cooled for about 2 minutes, it's very easy to remove the pieces that otherwise did not make it into the actual molds. If you're providing these candies to other people, make sure to use gloves during this process. As you can see here, I'm not using gloves, but that's because I intend to eat all 10 of these candies on my own. So, it's going to take about 30 minutes for the candy to set. Perfect amount of time to go water the plants. So now that the candy has set for about 30 minutes, it's time to go ahead and remove the pieces from the mold. You can go ahead and toss them in sugar if you'd like, as this will definitely help prevent them from sticking during storage. I like to put these candies in a mason jar in the pantry and use them within about 10 days. So I'm just hanging out outside, catching a little sunshine and some fresh air while I wait for the show to start. It's about 3 o'clock. We got about an hour and 20 minutes, give or take, until the show kicks off. Perfect amount of time for me to give one of these candies a go. It takes about 30 minutes to an hour and a half to kick in. Here we go. It tastes absolutely delicious. So when you guys see me on the show, I'll have already been enjoying this candy and I'll be in full swing. You probably won't see me smoking. Potency is determined heavily by the cannabinoid concentration in your tincture. Coach and Goat's Homegrown provided the tincture for us to use today. It came in at around 2,000 milligrams of total cannabinoid concentration in about 5 milliliters of MCT oil. In that total cannabinoid concentration is about 1,500 milligrams of THC. After calculating in about a 20% loss, these candies come in at about 120 milligrams of THC per piece. Keep in mind that the cannabis tincture used today was extra potent, and the batch of candy was done in a half batch. So the candy is extra potent. Candies that come in at around 120 milligrams are not for the average consumer. Make sure to start small and work your way up with these candies. They take a little while to kick in, but when they do, you'll know it. It's fun to indulge, but never fun to take too much. Thanks for tuning into Grower's Guide. You should now know a quick and easy way to make cannabis candies. If you have any questions or concerns regarding today's segment, or would like to set up a consultation appointment, please reach out to us at vermontgrowcoach.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, or contact us directly at 802-342-5381.
All right, thank you, Thomas, for another great episode. I just want to have some candy right now. I mean,
dude, how elevated do you think he was when he was just on the film? No,
right? I mean, to have an interactive segment, that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. To be sitting with us as he's, you know, I'm sure feeling it. Another great episode from Thomas. I mean, people ask all the time about how to make candies, right? And there's a lot of different methods. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. And, you know, there's another great way of doing it. So if you guys want to know how to make candy, you can find the archive here at YouTube page. Every week we'll put them back up for you guys, especially the parts that I muted out. Sorry.
I super advocate that for anybody who has a generation that doesn't understand the smoking and all of that, because my grandfather and my Nana, who are super sick, they're not smokers. It's not their jam. They've done it. That's fine. But the only time that I've seen better results is with good edibles, with good recipes and all that good stuff. So I definitely suggest that.
Well, definitely it's what you put into it, right? I mean, obviously it's like anything. The quality you put into it's a quality you're going to get out. The hardest thing with edibles, though, is knowing the dose, right? How much you're going to get, how to test that dosage. A lot of people will use, different extraction methods to put the cannabis into their products, right? We talk about with chef a lot, whether it's a butter or an oil, and a lot of people now just like using straight oils, right? It's easy, you know what the milligrams are, you can add it in and just do some simple math, right? Because it's easy.
So this is the general rule of thumb with anything edible that goes from tinctures to, you know, actual food. It depends on, so the milligrams and dosing depend on what you've put in it. You guys are absolutely, you hit it nail on the head. If you put a butter in there, you're using it really for a decently low dose, you know, milligram wise, but a flavor is really what you're going for there. If you're going to use a tincture, you're looking to add a little bit more of a lifted feature. If you use FICO or RSO, which is concentrated, you're looking to go one way fast. And it's a whole different story there.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
For sure.
Tell me more about RSO for Canada.
Okay, so RSO is Rick Simpson oil, and that's where he came from, as Canada. So you guys know all about it. You should know all about it.
But I'm talking. Tell me more about the extraction method.
Okay, so the difference between right. The difference between FICO and RSO is literally the solvent. It's how you the process is basically the same thing, but the solvent in which you use to extract the cannabis is different. So RSO, you use ethanol, alcohol, you use 190 proof. That pulls out more cannabinoids and more potency and things of that nature than just using a different a regular FICO glycerin. You know what I'm saying? So the extraction is a lot more of how you pull it out. We all know this, you know, anything alcohol based is going to pull a lot more than something glycerin based. That's just simple, you know, a little bit of chemistry right now. It's a molecular level. So what you were talking about earlier with, you know, going down to the molecular level of eating hemp to put it into a cow. basically the same thing, just putting cannabis into a food, or into an oral supplement. So it's a better absorption rate with the alcohol than it is the glycerin. I don't know the exact numbers. It's just one of those rules of thumbs where it's a chef goes, this is better than this. Know that. That's the important part. We just send it. I'll be honest with you. I can't get you those numbers. I'd have to go look, but off the top of my head, I just smoked some purple cheddar. It's gone. I'm sorry.
I'm on your team. I'm on your team. My question though, and what I find fascinating about that is when I worked for the startup company when, we were super gray market around what our Canadian industry was up to. So like you said, it's a chef thing, right? This works, this doesn't, this is legal, this isn't. Right. All that. So we use typically a lot of glycerin because primarily we were using almond oil, which is super not cute, in my genuine opinion, because the vast majority.
So all the people that have allergy and your tree nut allergies gone.
Yep.
Can't use
exactly.
Yeah.
We literally just depleted our market by 75%.
Right.
So we switched over to glycerin, but then we were having a difficult time figuring out which terpenes could actually be tasted and. Through with and there was not a good chef in the kitchen. And
you've got to train yourself for that. So that's actually it's. I love that you brought that up because that's part of my journey. So I'm a chef, much like Joe. We learn, okay, this is how a hollandaise sauce, these are how your 5 mother sauces are supposed to taste. Any variations of, you get the idea. This is how this is supposed to taste, period. If it wasn't for people like Rick Naya, Danny Danko, Joe even, Ed Rosenthal, people like that telling you this is how cannabis is supposed to taste and affect you. And affect you. I'm going to throw that again. And affect you. So you're telling me that I can taste emotion and feeling from this plant? Absolutely. You can now manipulate in the best way possible, in best form of pragmatically, your own emotions by ingesting something that you've created dish-wise, so food-wise, so, and that's the thing. RSO is for use for cancer patients, y'all. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to cure it that way. Whereas FICO's a different story. It's not as potent. Again, RSO should only be used in food if you are suffering from something that's actually kicking your ass every day. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they do have pretty structured usages for FICO and RSO. Correct. So it's not like something you just put in your food and use it. No, you actually have a regimen.
You need to know what the hell you're doing. Or you're gonna have a bad time. Buddy of mine, let me tell you a quick story. Buddy of mine was like, oh no, dude, I smoke weed all day, every day. And he does. I'm not gonna lie to you because I'm the one smoking with him. I know he smokes. I'm rolling it up. He can't roll for shit. The point is, I'm right there with him. So we know, all right? He's like, yo, I got this RSO from the dispensary. I'm gonna put all of it in some brownies. I'm gonna eat them. Man, I had to take him to the emergency room. I tell this doctor I smelled like weed. I know that, being a cannabis advocate, having my show here, having my multiple shows, tell this doctor to his face, yo, he just ate way too much weed. I don't know what you got to do, but he'll pay you whatever you want.
Depending on what you're eating, and this is the other thing people need to understand too. Is what to expect. A lot of people don't understand the difference between smoking, dabbing, edibles. People don't have the patience for edibles. So they end up eating way too much more than they ever thought. And again, you don't know what you're going to get. So it goes either way. If you ever have a bad time with an edible or you have a bad time with THC or cannabis, usually CBD, black pepper, there's certain things that will help bring down that high. You know what I mean?
So, and it's funny you should mention that because you're absolutely correct. CBD. All right. So if you're having a bad edible moment, okay, what happened when you ate some brownies that were not, meant for you? Okay. Let's face it.
Hannah almost got a flight redirected when I took her to California by taking way too much, not knowing. So yes.
Exactly. So what to do when these edibles weren't meant for you? I actually wrote an expose about this and sent it overseas to my friend who was writing a magazine, a bunch of stuff in the works. Actually, I'm going to be one of less than a handful of American ambassadors for this English company that's talking about cannabis and cooking. I'm going to have my own. It's going to be awesome. It's like an online class. You can sign up for it and stuff like that. And so that's going to be part of it. It's like you said, Joe, get as much CBD into you as you can. Now, remember that the human endocannabinoid system, the human body can only absorb about 100, maybe 150 milligrams of CBD at a time, meaning every 2 hours or so when your digestion, again, based on the person's digestion and things of that nature. But every 2 hours or so, you can take 200 milligrams of CBD. Now, as we all know, really bad edible trips don't just last 2 hours. Oh, hell no. You know, my digestion's pretty slow. I'm riding that way for a good solid 4 hours. So that would mean when I first, you know, feel it, kind of the anxiety kick in, take about 100 milligrams or an eyedropper of CBD. You get some good, you know, CBD, you plug that, you get a whole full dropper, you're going to feel all right in about 15, 20 minutes as soon as it kicks in. Mind you, do it the correct, follow the instructions, you know, make sure you let it sit under your tongue for faster absorption. You get the idea. Get that CBD into you. Now, where I like to go though, is I like making my own tinctures, you know, and things of that nature. And then I'll do a 50-50 blend. So 10 milligrams of THC to 10 milligrams of CBD sounds like it's not going to work. Well, at 10 milligrams of CBD, you're not going to feel shit. I'm not going to lie to you. You're not going to feel anything, nothing, barely, hardly anything. If you're taking 10 milligrams of THC, you're not going to feel the CBD. That's what's going to happen. You're going to want 100 milligrams of CBD to your 10 milligrams of THC. That right there, I'm not even joking, is like the perfect niche for me. That's where I like to cruise around. You know what I'm saying? I can have a good time, and CBD is all about what you don't want to feel, what you want to go away, the pain, you know, the inflammation, things of that nature. So that's all melted away, and I can ride that like functioning, you know, elevation feeling of the, you know, the entourage effect of the THC at about 10%. I could still go about my day. For me, that's perfect. For other people, I'm guessing like, you know, Tom, oh man, I feel bad about that candy, because that's if I'm adding this up right, and you said it's super potent, that's pushing about 200 milligrams of what he just popped of pure THC. That's going to be one hell of a birthday party he just went to, man. I mean, it's just she's going to look over, he's just drooling. Happy birthday. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
oh my gosh, honestly,
best birthday ever.
He ain't forgot about the birthday. What?
Yeah. No, like he's sitting there. I'm like, whoa. Because I'm following the video. You know, this is what I do. I actually bought some cannabis leaf molds that I can make jellies and chocolates out of. Yeah. And I literally just did this. I'm doing mine with a Delta 8 distillate, y'all. That's interesting.
Here we go. Distillate. We're using distillate again.
More about that.
Woo! Okay, so Delta 8. You got CBD over here. CBD is great. So you got the entire spectrum. CBG, CBN, to get the idea. CBD. Then you got Delta 9. Oh shit. That's that pissed off neighbor that you just want to walk around his house at the end of the street, but it's the only way out. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, that's
no trespassing.
Oh yeah, exactly. But at the same time, they got the best candy on Halloween, so that's where you're gonna go. You know what I mean? So the point is, I want those full-size candy bars. So how do I get both? Delta 8. That is your segue, because Delta 8's really known for its anti-pain and anti-inflammatory. But when mixed with, you know, all of the if you mix it with CBD, you get all of the benefits of THC 9. So the head high, no anxiety. Okay. And you get all the benefits of the Delta 8 itself and the CBDs. If it's mixed properly, you get a good blend of it. That's my point. It's all synthetic. You know, there's a lot of people saying, oh, it's Delta 8. And well, it's got to be isolated, and there's a little bit of science to it. But yeah, sure. Go ahead and sell me Delta 8 flour. That's not really Delta 8. It's just CBD.
But hold on.
Well, the thing with Delta 8 flour.
Hang on.
The thing with Delta 8 flour.
We're talking at once.
Oh, sorry to say it. When you said Delta 8 flour, the funny thing about it, if you want Delta 8 flour, really, you're not going to get much more than 1%.
No, you're not.
Delta 8, like you said, it's an isolation. And it's also a reaction process through isolation and it, you know, making a distillate and isolate that makes it Delta 8. Like you said, there's really no THC in it, right? And that's why the FDA and the DEA are all confused on what to do with this right now. And
so so Michigan just passed a law. So Delta 8 was legal in Michigan for a while.
We're happy for Michigan.
Thank you. And so it's like, and that's right, Ontario's right there. So hello, neighbor.
Right, literally.
How's Letterkenny? No, a lot of people know. It's funny because I'm like, I'm from Michigan. They're like, oh, so you're familiar with Letterkenny? I was like, yeah, because they talked about it in one episode. That's it. Anyways,
we appreciate you still the same. We're Canadian and we're sorry.
Yo, hey, real quick, can you guys like just adopt Michigan into Canada here soon? Because damn.
Yeah, right.
Damn.
We would actually rather trade the US for Quebec and take Michigan. So like, let's talk.
There's good fishing in Quebec. That's all I'm gonna say.
We're on that team.
If you don't watch Letterkenny, go fucking watch Letterkenny.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah.
you better believe I watched Letterkenny.
Yeah. No, I'm some people don't. But
I don't
again,
think there'll be one-liners that
Delta
are
8
suitable.
is one of those things where it's literally that new good. You know what I'm saying? It's literally like it's the best. I just got my medical card. All right, I just got my medical card. That's what your boy, thank you, did this weekend. Everything lined up, the stars aligned. I was like, screw it. I had enough money. I did it. So now I can talk more about the THC side of it and still be legal, if you will. Yeah. Here's the thing, y'all. You don't have to take 200 milligrams of THC to have a good time. Tom, I'm saying this for you. Okay. Oh man. Like, dude, I got PTSD from him saying that, because there was one time I did that and it was not a fun ride. I would not do that on my daughter's birthday. What the hell was you thinking, homie? Like, don't eat her cake. That's all I'm telling you. Don't ruin that little girl's. You ruin that little girl's day.
Joe, I feel like we need to do a follow-up segment just about the birthday.
We'll do a blog of it on Friday, right? When we get all the details back.
Tim, how's your birthday been?
Dumb, silly things that he did.
Worked my ass off all day today. So now I'm here. So I'll let you know next week.
The adult birthday life is definitely different than the younger birthday life where we all are working. We appreciate you working today, Tim. Let's segue to you real quick. You know, we're talking about Delta 8 now. Ronnie's using it. I mean, what is the status of Delta 8? We're still in like this weird gray area as we have been, right? And I've seen some news where people are trying to push a DEA to establish these recommendations and stuff. Where do we stand with Delta 8 right now?
DEA's job. The DEA is administrative executive branch agency. They are fuck the DEA. Congress needs to take care of this. You know, this needs to be done at the statutory level. I can't stand the DEA, and obviously they are an incredibly biased organization that is not going to do anything good for the industry except to sow more confusion and frustration. Delta 8 is a cannabinoid, one of about 160 cannabinoids, you know, that we've found so far. There's probably more. Working in conjunction with the other cannabinoids, the entourage effect that we talked about all the time, you know, the different effects of cannabis plants, you know, traditional indica sativa, it's actually the combination of the, you know, various cannabinoids. This is a huge split in the cannabis law realm. All of us cannabis lawyers get together and start chit-chatting, and this is a really big question. And it comes back to hemp and the 2018 Farm Bill and the source rule. The 2018 Agricultural Improvement Act, the Farm Bill says any derivatives, extracts, isomers, salts, blah, 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 that is derived from cannabis sativa, which contains less than 0.3% THC, are legal.
Yeah,
and
which some of those are non-psychoactives.
Illegal.
Right.
All of them, everything. Doesn't mention psychoactive or not psychoactive. So that is why a lot of people felt comfortable saying that as long as you had a COA to show your source hemp, and that your Delta 8 was extracted from hemp, and that was demonstrative by a COA, that you were good. And then the DEA said, no, not only is that because it's synthetically derived cannabinoid, because this is what we're talking about with Chef Rodney. The word synthetic gets thrown around a lot, and people get confused. You know, spice, K2, synthetic marijuana, that's chemicals that are put together and somebody calls it marijuana. It's not marijuana. It's nothing to do with marijuana. It's just a random bunch of dangerous chemicals put together. But when you synthesize, say, CBD and convert, or THCA converted to Delta 9, these are natural conversions. Yes, it's a synthetic process, but it's not fake or, you know, any other drugs. These are the natural, I'm not a scientist, but, you know, how these kind of cannabinoids interact.
Best way, Tim, let me stop you right there. The best way to describe it, check it out. You've got penicillin, and you've got amoxicillin. That's this amoxicillin is synthetically made penicillin for people that can't take penicillin. Think about it that way. Synthetic amoxicillin, penicillin. Two same thing, do the exact same thing. One synthetic, one's not. That's all it is. That's it. Sorry.
Nice. No, that's fantastic. It's much easier than I was rambling on about. So it's synthetic made like K2 spice, fake, illegal. Is this a synthetic, you don't make Delta 8 in that same way. But yet the Controlled Substance Act does say that any derivative of marijuana, if it is as or more psychoactive, is illegal. So there's a schism. There's strong arguments to be made on both sides. But the DEA also came out and said, we've got a lot more important things to do than to worry about this because we're dealing with international drug trafficking and blah, 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 which is all fine and great until they change their mind and decide to, crack down on somebody just for the hell of it. So is it legal? That's really hard to say. Right now it's proliferating, and eventually there's going to be an arrest, and eventually it's going to go up in front of a judge, and eventually we're going to have a judicial decision, which is the judiciary's job, that branch of the government, to interpret the law, not the
Who
DEA.
wants to take that bullet?
Law sucks.
Yeah.
Believe me, it's not getting any better.
Well,
Hold on. That being said, quick question: when you're talking about the ratios and what can be legally grown, and what's crazy to me, super quickly, is that you guys have a higher yield in CBD. We can't legally grow that here.
Oh.
When that does happen, and for instance, a client is then found like, hey, this was too much. Is there any recourse for having to burn the crop, or what does that look like?
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually just talked to, I'm actually trying to buy my own land here in Michigan. I'm trying to buy 17 acres and grow hemp on all of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to move to this land, and that's where I'm going to do my own farm. Like, that's where Deliciously Dope's going to be a thing.
You're going to be so close to Canada.
Yeah. I mean, dude, come on down. Everybody, seriously, come on down.
Come on up.
If I can, I mean, we're Americans, so not everybody likes us right now. So
I do.
But anyway, so I can legally go buy land. I can legally plant, I believe, don't quote me on this number, but I believe it's up to 25,000 hemp plants if I wanted to. I could do whatever I wanted. It's my land, X, Y, and Z. I could sell it. They're going to go, okay, it's CBD though. Like it's smokable. Yeah. But there's not really much you can do. And so there's
psychoactive, but people get so confused about that.
Correct. And it's that stigma, okay, the psycho. So in legal terms, it's psychoactive. They have to use the actual, and I get that. To us, it's smokable, and it breaks down to different words. So it's different terminology. You get
pissed off when we get into another country and find out it's just CBD.
Right. No. And so it's like, you have to understand that CBD, actual CBD hemp, there's, less than 3%, you know what I'm saying? Less than 3% THC in it, if that.
And that's here. And you touched on this earlier when you said that it's, you guys across the border, XYZ. Mm-hmm. When we federally legalized, we also federally called 0.03. And if it's anything more than that, but touching back on why I'm here and soil rejuvenation and agriculture, what happens with the plant is if it's not harvested, and this is why a lot of people are planting, but they don't understand the process. If it's not harvested at the correct time, that plant goes into essentially protection mode and it creates more THC. So my first crop actually provided more THC than CBD, because I didn't harvest it at the appropriate time. It was a test crop and it went into, survival mode essentially. And then that wasn't an issue, because I told Health Canada, our governing body. In the US though, you guys have to burn your crops, and my heart breaks for you.
It depends on the
state by state basis.
State by state.
Okay.
In Michigan,
every state has their own,
what it is.
Their own procedure.
Oh, my heart breaks for you.
Yeah. Well, I know Massachusetts has that procedure where, because we talked to Adam recently on the show, Adam Souza from Herbal Extracts, right? He tested just like it was like 0.305, and they made him burn his crop in front of the police, right?
I remember that. Oh.
Right. Some states, I mean, here in Vermont, I know it's different now. Tim, we've talked about this. Is at one point in time, you had to bring it to the dispensaries, have the dispensaries take care of it.
At one
now
point,
that's
that
different.
was an option. That was not. You didn't have to. That was mandatory. That was just a potential remediation step that could be taken. Could be sold to a dispensary and/or a extractor, and have the excess THC extracted out. Interestingly enough, that's still in the statute, in the Vermont hemp statutes under Vermont law, but the new hemp regulations have stricken that, and it's fully anticipated they're going to take that out, because the USDA does not allow for remediation or mitigation, which is one of the major issues that we have to rule.
Because should we have something? Is there anything?
THC fluctuate, and who's going to plant a crop and put the money in time where if you go slightly over because your harvest or your test was off, or anything that minute amount, and you have to destroy your entire crop. It's ridiculous.
Is there any allowances for industrial hemp though? Like, I mean, even if we prove to be a little high, if we're going to use it for an industrial hemp nature,
you have to get hemp insurance.
Joe, statute, it's cannabis sativa. It's one plant, hemp marijuana, the same plant. It is all about an arbitrary number called 0.3% delta 9 THC.
Any of our governments
decide to make it total theoretical THC, which is a THCA converted into delta 9. Now that's not feasible. That just can't happen. Much like their sampling protocols can't happen. It's just not realistic. So the interim final rule has been put off another year. They did what we thought they were going to do, and allowing states to continue their pilot programs for another year. So Vermont, we don't have to worry about now on November 1st, the rules changing over. We've got another year under the 2014 pilot program here in Vermont. So that's fantastic. And what everybody expects is that, assuming we have an administration change in the White House, that'll be a new head of the USDA, and we will probably see a much more sane, rational, reasonable interim final rule come out for the hemp program.
Right.
Yes.
I read a couple interesting articles, and I'm glad you brought that. Right. We have 35 seats in the Senate open this year, right? So, I mean, we could have a completely different landscape, obviously, depending on how the Senate seats go, and then obviously how the presidency election goes, right?
Super positive
Hold
article.
on. I need to respectfully interject because I love everything that you guys are up to. But that actually is unfortunate that it's going to depend on that. So in Canada, the program is a little bit different. And weirdly, the date is June 11th. Let it be known for all the clients. As long as you register for crop insurance based on what the typical MSRP would be for whatever genetic you process, you can definitely you can apply for crop insurance. So to your point saying, Tim, like that's the scary thing, right? What are we farming? What are we doing that? I'm really excited for the US to implement a program like that.
Never would happen.
Because we don't know what we're going to yield, but we know what we planted and we know what the ROI should be. That should be a program in the US as well.
I would be very careful with that crop insurance policy. I can almost guarantee you there's a provision there which will exclude coverage for illegal activities. Standard boilerplate language in any insurance rider. So if you are over your limit, that is an illegal activity. Your crop insurance will not pay for overage. It won't. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe in Canada, you guys have actually normal human beings working in the insurance industry, but the US policy will never cover overage.
Wait, hold on. I'm so excited about this conversation. Hold on. Put me in, coach. This means like planting over a plant, like a plant allowance, or what do you mean in terms of, because I can plant, I have 100 acres, 74.2 plantable. Good to go. I would insure that. So you're telling me that if I planted one plant over that?
No.
Hot plants.
Using the use of crop insurance to prevent, to mitigate the risk of having your crop destroyed for being hot.
We're still talking industrial hemp, right?
Hemp in
We're
general.
talking about anything in general. Yeah.
Cannabis in general.
Unfortunately, I mean, at least for us in America, there is no provisions for industrial hemp, and that's why I'm bringing up. Like, why has none of our governments looked at industrial hemp? This is the problem with the CBD bubble to me, because we're so focused legally, government-wise, politician-wise on CBD, a medical market and a recreational market, and no one's really even talking about the industrial hemp market, right? We're not talking about the hempcretes, the hemp feeds, the soil rejuvenation projects that are out there, that like when we're talking about Monsanto and like oil cleanups and stuff like that, right? Why are there no provisions in the laws for these? Like even in the Farm Act, I mean, is there anything that talks about industrial hemp? Like, wouldn't you think in this day and age, even to help our crops, our farmers, if we're thinking smart, right? Why would we not have a provision that will allow up to another certain extent over the hot, what we consider hot hemp mark, the 0.3, right? And give you an allowance up to like a 2% or 3% that can be used in industrial hemp.
Well, most industrial hemp is a fibrous hemp. It's a different strain. It's not cannabis sativa. Cannabis,
Right.
Not correct, but
Thank
not
you.
Which has like no THC, and there is
Right,
provision.
but you can utilize stocks from regular cannabis, even THC cannabis, to utilize for fibers as well. But you are correct. They do grow specific strains for industrial hemp that provides very little flower. But part of the thing we're talking about today is what we're doing with our biomass, what we're doing with our scraps, what we're doing with the stuff that we burn. Is it plausible to put it into feed? 2x4s, hempcrete, you know what I mean? What can we do with that rather than burn it or get rid of it, right? Because the big thing is hemp feed right now. I think that we're seeing a lot of states.
You're not using cannabis sativa to make hempcrete. You're using fibrous rudella. It's a much stronger fiber. That's what gives it the strength. Is those long, tall? You'll probably see them. They almost look like bamboo. It's cannabis, but it's not cannabis sativa.
Right, but what about when we're looking at like things like cellulose or plastics or other things where we're not utilizing the fibers as much, but we're utilizing more of the petrols and the oils and the things that are inside the plant?
I agree. I'm not arguing with you, Joe. I'm saying absolutely.
I know. I'm just these are the things I think about when we're talking about our cannabis industry, where I think we're just a lot of people are looking at, right? We like we discussed already, we don't have a hemp fiber facilities really here in America. We don't really have the grows going on.
It really just comes down to
level.
American politicians need to stop being dickheads. That's really what it
is. We just
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Just need to legalize the plant and stop this ridiculous prohibition.
You want money? The money's going to come. You want your legalities?
To be educated on this. I need
what
you
it is
it's not about legalization. These scheduling things.
Saying that the police aren't going to have a job to do once you legalize marijuana. Ain't nobody going to want to smoke a joint and punch somebody in the face. No. What the hell is your goddamn problem? I mean, come on, dude. Listen, let's back up off some people here.
Don't we have a police shortage anyways? Don't we have an issue with pension?
We don't have an issue. The issue is police itself. I mean, for every 2 good cops, there's what, 7, 8 bad cops? I mean, come on.
Well, there's an interesting article this week, and something happened and this is what reminds me, because we talk about the military, being kind of proactive to cannabis research, where obviously it isn't allowed in the military, right? This week, the NFL, which uniquely enough, a few months ago, we all knew they basically took cannabis off of their list, their drug list, right? They're not going to enforce it. They weren't going to, they're not going to kick people out of the league for smoking cannabis. We've seen many issues of this over the past few years, where a lot of athletes have stood up and said, this is my medicine, and they've served time. They've been suspended for a year or so. The NFL has now released a memo advising people to not participate in even the use of their image for promotion of CBD companies now. So like people like Rob Gronkowski, like a lot of these athletes have contracts with these cannabis companies now. Is this an interesting memo, Tim? I mean, they basically say we're not going to, what's this do for people in the sports industry again? Is this a setback, or is this?
Again, it's so hard to characterize because it's not in a vacuum. There's been tension between the NFL owners and administration and players since the whole Colin Kaepernick kneeling on the, there's been an unbelievable amount of tension. Interestingly, from the very rich white owners and not quite as rich, but still pretty rich, mostly African-American and minority players. And I think this, almost just takes on another flavor of that. How much does it actually have to do with cannabis policy versus how much does it have to do with just internal politics within the NFL? I mean, it doesn't help. It's just, but it's, when you read these things now, we all start to have the same reaction. Oh, come on. It's ridiculous. It's no longer like, they're making a valid point. That's very dangerous for those athletes to be doing. It's insane, and so it almost weakens that prohibitionist argument, because they put out this regulation and everybody goes, that's so fucking stupid.
Yep.
And then they look like assholes, because then they're trying to justify a position and a policy that doesn't make any rational sense. We've seen sports go dramatically towards where they should be. Stopping drug testing, allowing cannabis use, allowing CBD use in the NHL, and we're seeing that more and more. So when an owners association will, come out and say, oh, you can't do this, it's like, all right, guys, when are you going to give it up? When are you going to give it up? So I don't think it really hurts us.
Listen, if you can smoke a joint and swim like Michael Phelps, I mean, come on, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, goddamn.
Well, that's the thing. When we talk about the NFL,
like everybody else, come on, man. Come on.
When we talk about the NFL, right? It's the one sport where we really have to worry about CTE, right? And we're seeing that cannabis is really effective on CTE, PTSD. a lot of these sports traumas these guys endure through a life of being a football player, right? So this is just interesting to see the league go back and forth. It's kind of like what we see the politics, right? They support it, and then they write a law that says you can't, and they go back and forth. But like it's all I keep saying is CTE. We have more deaths to CTE than we have cannabis, right? Suicides, crazy things like that, where cannabis really proves to be a beneficial drug, which kills me, because again, when we talk about CTE, helmet injuries, head injuries, concussions, things of that nature, seizures, stuff like that, it points right back to cannabis being a beneficial drug.
Can I also make a point? Sorry to interrupt you, but can I also make a point that, and this statistic boggled my mind, in the US alone, it is a higher rate of suicide for farmers in the US than veterans. That says something to do about how we need to look at farming and how we need to seriously think about the end goal of what we're up to.
Well, I think the U.S. Agriculture Department puts a lot on the farmers, and then they've kind of structured them. Like we said, we just watched the Kiss the Ground again. It goes very deeply into what the U.S. Agriculture Department, kind of outlines for you as a farmer, what they regulate you to use, how they tell you to use it, how they tell you, if you have a problem, this is what you solve it with. You know what I mean? And it's chemical on top of chemical on top of chemical on top of chemical, which is, again, what's depleting our topsoils. You know what I mean? The machinery that we're using depleting topsoils, right? So you have a farmer that's making how much on corn a pound, that has to buy a $500,000 machine and have a few of those to get the job done. It's a stress, right? It's probably more of a money and a financial stress. Also being overworked. Farming life isn't easy. It's like the mail delivery system. Like it's just, the people that have the suicide numbers are unreal, right? But again, I think when you look at that in that bubble, it's how do you function in this day and age in America under these strict guidelines and be profitable? You know what I mean? It's like we were talking about before. How do you convert your farm into being a hemp farm and be profitable right now? Especially in this day and age where, again, like we said, you have to have an outlet, you have to have the knowledge, you have to have the equipment, and you have to have at least a little bit of funds behind you so you can absorb an issue or two. You know what I mean? Like you said, to play, to learn. You know what I mean? Not just put everything you have, that last penny, into a project that you just hope it works, right? And farming's not easy. You get the dairy industry, the cattle industry, everything's being outsourced to foreign governments. China's one of our leading suppliers of meat in this country, which is kind of crazy to me. They own most of our largest manufacturers of meat and things like that, poultry. So it's crazy. And you bring up a great point, especially with suicides. Everybody just needs to smoke some more weed, in my opinion, right?
You know what? I genuinely concur. But that being said, we are seeing, and specifically, and I know you guys are in our sweet land of America, and I'm hopeful for you guys. I genuinely am. Canada needs to get it together as well. We're looking at different paper mills and factories that are going out of business, and CannaCollective specifically is looking at converting that to be hemp pulp paper, and to kind of reignite 1920s and what we were up to with that. That being said, our sweet friend in the US still has just actually launched her first cookbook that is all going to be made out of hemp paper on hemp recipes. Shadi, you're amazing. I love everything about that, and I would love to see everything revert in a really good way. Like all of us have different things. Tim, you're a lawyer. Chef Rodney, you're a chef. All of these things, though, are stemming from hemp and cannabis and what is going to bring us together. So I super look forward to that.
Well, the industry is awesome because it's always going to be going. It's never going to stop changing, right? It's always there. One thing I want to talk.
Yep, there went his internet.
Oh, no. You muted.
Yep, no, his internet.
I got a correction thing too. It wasn't actually the owners association with that NFL case. It was the players association. But it really doesn't change my feel.
That would let. Oh, we back?
There he is.
Back. He's
back.
What
happened there? Well, everything looked normal. I just paused for a minute. All right. So.
You were just remixing what you said.
Did you hear it? Did you hear any of it? I don't even know what you heard. Yeah. So well, we're talking about the industry, right? We're talking about working in the industry, stuff like that. There was an article today that I wanted to talk to Tim about actually on Thursday of last week, where it was a bill. We don't normally talk about a lot of bills because, bills get shot down every day. There's always issues with them. We're talking about the Senate bills and things like that. We don't get too much behind it, but Washington D.C. came out with a bill that I think is a great bill. I wonder why we're not instilling this in more places. And I want to talk about the Vermont new bill because there's an article out from Marijuana Business Daily that is wondering about if it's a correct bill for small companies. But anyways, Washington D.C. bill would let the cannabis convicts work in the medical industry, right?
Oh, come on! It didn't. We'll get to it. Sorry.
We'll get to it.
What that article said.
We're gonna get to it. But anyways, the Washington D.C. bill would let cannabis convicts work in the medical industry. Is this something that every state that is legalized right now should already be doing, especially with expungement?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Guess what Governor Whitmer signed into law?
Well, this is a big thing because felons can't get into the industry, whether it's medical industry, whether it's the recreational industry.
Again, that's state by state basis. Vermont has no exclusion for felony convictions. In fact, a felony for cannabis conviction could actually be beneficial because there's a provision for those who are detrimentally impacted by the war on drugs. Some states do, again, but that's a state by state basis. We don't have one overarching law that says felons can't participate. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I wouldn't want to try to get involved if you had a felony for embezzlement or fraud or any sort of financial theft. That would most likely, have a real problem with the regulators, But as far as, say, cultivation, that should not, at least definitely not in Vermont, exclude you from the industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting to see this because, again, we're talking about social equity, we talk about expungements, and then I see bills like this. It's like, why can't we just get it all together and just put it all one big proposal, expungement, convicts. Because again, with expungements, we're not gonna have convicts, right? With some of these felonies that can be issued, for expungement, are some felonies up for grabs in these expungement bills, Tim, or is it just misdemeanors at this point?
Again, totally state by state. This is a state, expungement is a state process, so it's not federal. So every state has their own provisions. Some states allow the expungement of felonies, some states do not. Some states are including felony possession within their expungement kind of framework. Some will felony possession, but not felony sales or distribution. Everybody's got a little tweaks on it. Vermont, for example, misdemeanors fine, felonies no for expungement. And that's something we've been working very, very hard. My other organization, Vermonters for Criminal Justice Reform, to change.
Let's look at it this way in Michigan, okay? It's recreational marijuana is legal for adult consumption over 21. You were legally allowed to grow 10 or 12 plants, X, Y, and Z. So how the hell are you going to still be in prison or in jail for something that is now legal? That, I'm sorry, is called entrapment. How are you going to, that's what it is. You know what I mean? How are you going to continue to hold me in jail when you got rapists there? How are you going to sit there and tell me that, oh, hey, you got caught with 3 ounces 10 years ago? That's a terrible thing. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the 1987 drug charge from where you were snorting a line off of a stripper's ass trying to drive a Camaro T-top now, are we? No, we're not. So sit the fuck back down. You know what I mean? We ain't ready to have that conversation. Come on. You scream at somebody for having them? You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna go home, get their friend's stone, put it in food, and not give a shit. Whereas you had to spend a week, doing these lectures for charities and donating all this money to these charities to get daddy to cover it up because you're a politician. Oh, you serious right now? Sorry, that really pisses me off right there, and I'm done.
Well, it's such a
we loved your enthusiasm.
I love your passion. Yeah, I was gonna say, right? Is what it's all about. Oh my!
Did you watch The Wolf of Wall Street last night, by any chance?
I'm sorry.
No, but you make a great point. Unfortunately, we've had this drug game issue for a long time. Well before this decade. You know what I mean? Where we can look back on the narcotics, the drugs, the DEA. All of our involvement with it as a government. Right down to crack and everything else that we do as a government, which is really fucked up. No, you make a great point. At this point in day and age, like when I grew up, I thought everybody smoked weed. It was just a matter of who admitted it, right? I knew cops, I knew lawyers, I knew teachers, I knew
who smelled like that left cigarette.
I've known a few that smoked some weed in my day. You know what I mean? It's got me out of some trouble in some parts of my life. But like, we know that the stigma is not real. I mean, there's very productive people that do great things that smoke weed every day. Tim, right in front of us right now, smoking a bowl. Like
I don't know what you're talking about.
Solution.
Like CBD.
I didn't see shit.
I didn't inhale.
But
need wine tasting, it's fine.
Well, I think we're finally starting to see this shift in acceptance, right? Where people would rather see somebody smoking a bowl than drinking a fifth of vodka, right? Or they'd rather have, it's more acceptable to, smoke a bowl now than to take a few shots before a meeting or do something that I think the stigmas are finally changing at least a little bit.
We need to get rid of the stigma because
normalization. We talk too much about normalization, and that's why it's so important.
Exactly. And it's just like,
hey, here's the thing though. I'm going to say this, and I genuinely mean it. Yes, all the stigma is changing, but it's changing because of consumerism.
correct.
It's changing because now the governments have found a way to monetize it.
Correct.
They're making it look a little bit less, we've already been doing this thing. We've already been pioneering this industry. Now that the governments have found a way, they're like, okay, it's a little bit socially acceptable, but here are the ramifications.
Joe, wherever you found her, I like her. I like her. And it's probably because she's fucking Canadian.
Hey, Connor.
You're absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? It's consumerism because more people are turning away from alcohol. More people are turning away from pharmaceuticals. More people are seeing that, this stigma was just that because of X, Y, and Z. And now it's getting rid of X, Y, and Z that's important. You understand? Because again,
I'm going to go deeper on this, Glenn, and that at a whole, like whether you're a stoner or a medicinal user or whatever words we're using,
both.
Consumerism delved deeper into that, where we're now seeing the shift in I use this example frequently. Lego.
You can make hemp Legos.
For example.
No, they are. By 2025, their company initiative is to make all of their Lego pieces from hemp bioplastic. Do you know why that's happening? It's because of people like us that are pioneering and advocating why this is important. People are paying more attention to, if I cut down a tree, this is what it means. So back to my point, it's consumerism. It's a consumer demand. And finally, people are being more, more cognitive and more educated about their demands, right? We demand less of bullshit denim or whatever it is. We want more environmental impact. So now we're doing it. Now these giant companies are paying attention because they simply have no choice. And now we all have the power to implement that and seriously pay attention.
So
I think you do have choices.
From that movie, what was it? Black Sheep. He goes, if you want to know more about a T-bone steak, you can take the butcher's word for it, or you can shove your head up the bull's ass. The point is, consumerism is just that, and consumerism has gotten to the point to where it's like, okay, that's great, but where exactly did you pick your olive oils? Listen, not all chefs are artisans. Fact, not all chefs are going to go out to the olive fields and they're not going to do that. They're going to order it from a different perspective. So if you're going to ask me, hey, that's great, but what part in Snake River was this fish? I don't fucking know. And it doesn't matter. It's the exact same type of fish, made a certain way. Honestly, to tell you the truth, a lot of those fish are put in farms and then just advertised to you that they're caught wild and fresh. It's not true.
You know what, BP? I call that low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging consumerism fruit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it is. Unfortunately, there's a seed for every ass in every market, right? I mean,
exactly.
There's and like Rodney says, it depends on your approach. If you're looking at for a bottom line approach, if you're looking at from a quality approach, or if you're looking at from a craft approach, because as a chef, you can be a 5-star chef or you can be an Applebee's chef. You know what I mean? And they require totally different fundamentals. Like Chef said, I used to go down into the fish markets and the veg markets and touch tomatoes and pick specials and find cool, unique things. Not everybody does that, right? But it really shines through.
They should, is my point. They should do that. But
that's honestly, sorry to interrupt you, lovely gentlemen. That literally goes back into what we're talking about. if you're choosing a genetic, know your soil. Where are you growing? What are you growing? How are you growing? So the same way that you guys are talking about, you know, chef and all that beautiful stuff, what are you growing heirloom tomatoes? Because
it's important.
Completely different thing.
And it is important. So don't get that twisted. It is very important. You are absolutely correct. And thank you. And I wanted to interrupt to say that it is important. Don't take that, you know, don't let me project that the wrong way. But
we're all stoners.
You have to look at supply and demand. That's where the issue is. So you've got more.
Ooh, I love that you said that. Yes.
You know, more people are becoming more cognizant onto what they consume and where they consume it and how much they consume. We're becoming more, again, I guess you could say, you know, very cognitive. We're kind of looking past that stigma going, okay, that's cool, but, you know, what's going on? Because we've heard about cancers, we've heard about poisonings and things of that nature coming from all of these companies that have screwed it up. That we're hoping hemp can go back and cure these fields, you know, and cure these cows and stuff. Again, all of this comes back to those 5 fingers. You know what I mean? It's that one hand that's going to give you that pull up. A lot of people aren't ready to have that conversation yet. You know what I'm saying?
That's a lot of people aren't open-minded yet. People aren't open-minded. They don't want to believe that what they were taught in a certain platform is not what is real. Like think about what we know today versus what we were taught in high school or middle school and how much of it was so fucking wrong. It's ridiculous, but we entrusted those people. That's why the stigmas don't break. That's why, you know, a lot of these doctors aren't willing to even look at the research, right? That's why a lot of these people aren't even willing to sit down and smoke a blunt because they're going, you know, when I grew up, it was the devil's lettuce, right?
I'll give them a blunt.
It was illegal for a reason, but they're not going to sit down and listen to the proper reason behind that. They'll just take whatever propaganda they were fed and known. Like my mom's a nurse, right? I'm the biggest stoner I know. My mom's a nurse. She'll never touch weed, right? I don't know how she feels about it nowadays, but for many years, she thought, again, it was a devil's lettuce. Like, you know, you're going straight to hell for smoking it. You know, and then she was a nurse, so she's an educated woman on benefits that could have been there, but she was never taught that. So when you go to nurse school and you spend 7 years or whatever you're going to do, being a lawyer, a nurse, or whatever, and you're taught all these crazy things, to have that all unwound in front of you and literally pointed at a government that you trust. Like, let's talk about the real stigma behind cannabis. It's, you know, government funded, it's government supported, it's government done, pushed to the media covered it, pushed it. And it was the war on drugs. It was the Reagan era. It was Ollie North. It was, you know, we have cocaine. We have, you know, the drug cartels come up from Mexico, including marijuana, right? Because that was a huge thing. Remember back in the day, we all had Mexican weed, right? If you pay attention to how all it works, it's a lot of it's government funded. So if you know how the criminalization of cannabis happens and when they rescheduled it and why, you learn a lot of different things. I mean, we even as a group here on the show have learned many different things about the outlawing of cannabis. Like, you know, we had John Dvorak on, which I know Danyka knows and loves and appreciates because he's the history of hemp guy, right? He even came on and was like, you guys are all fucking wrong. Like, it's a great story. It's a great conversation piece, but literally it just wasn't a product that was sustainable in our country, right? Compared to what we were seeing overseas, compared to the growth numbers, looking at the agriculture side of it, just wasn't something that they were producing a lot of. And back then, when it was used in medicine, we could only use it as an oil. So the flower was not allowable back then. So when the Mexicans came in and they had the Mexican Revolution and they started blaming, you know, all, you know, they're scaring all the men thinking that, you know, the Mexicans are going to smoke weed with your wives and take them home with them. You know what I mean? It was going to be this crazy sex shit. And it was just crazy. Like the whole Reefer Madness thing was crazy if you think about it, right? And then we have the Hearst publications, and then we see that decline. Now, my big question is knowing what John has taught us, right? And seeing that, you know, we had a significant decrease in agriculture at the time, and everything was being imported from, you know, over in Europe or from China. Can we get this market back on a level that can succeed again? Because here we are talking about failing farmers, right? We're talking about issues that we see throughout the hemp market. I mean, some people hit gold and they do very good. A lot of these farmers are not succeeding with this project, right? Growing hemp, CBD. You know, we're starting to see a lot of these farms close down again because they either had a bad crop, they didn't plan properly. I mean, multiple reasons, right? can we make this industry an industry that can withstand the test of time again? Because again, a lot of why it was easy to push away and to make illegal was the fact that it just wasn't producing well. There wasn't a lot of farms here. There wasn't a lot of people advocating for the plant to stay legalized because no one's making money off of it.
Is it
Put me in,
Danyka?
coach. Put me in, coach.
Danyka, what do you got?
Danyka.
I honestly don't, sorry to interrupt you, my good friend Chef. Honestly don't know what you guys were up to, but we've been able to legally grow industrial hemp since 1998. Mm-hmm. The difference is once we hit legislation on sweet October 17th, 2018, we then were able to introduce CBD. So what happened was all of these veteran cuckoo bananas that honestly thought I was the real estate agent and thought that I was selling the farm and I had no idea what to do with that. Whereas I was taking the knowledge of learning about CBD, where it came from, why hemp is relevant, what we can do with it, all of that good stuff, and implementing it. They thought I was selling it. Since 1990, we've grown industrial hemp, but nobody really knew what to do with that. And like to your point, Rodney, like industrial hemp, cattle, like all of that good stuff. So it became something. And there was a horrible story where somebody grew industrial hemp in my area. They did not realize how fibrous the stalk was, and they used a wrong piece of equipment, which was a very expensive piece of equipment, completely butchered it. So it took me 2 years to even find a farmer to acknowledge the fact that this was something that should and could be done. Because one person years ago, before they knew, what equipment was necessary, and fair enough, the fibers wrapped around the combine and completely blew it off, unfortunately. Those same farmers, though, have now come back and they're like, hey, like I see you hand pulling. So this crop, I did a test crop and I personally hand pulled every stalk because I'm doing my own project. And I'm super committed to hemp and to all of what it can do. So tell me I can do it. I'm going to go do it. That being said, though, we need to have
that conversation.
Yeah, like what you're saying, that conversation, and to say, and to me, it was proof of concept. Like, okay, cool. You said, you asked me why, you asked me how. I'm now showing you why and how. But we're still missing that infrastructure and those people that.
Oh, absolutely. But that's what we're fighting for now. And that's what it is. We're pioneers, and I love the way that you aptly put that. So thank you. But at the same time, you can't kind of sell yourself short either. You know what I'm saying? You have it a little harder. And it's because that's where a lot of sadly enough money and politics really comes into it. And it's just like, okay, so how are you going to take hemp serious if it's just gonna you're just gonna ignore it? And that's the problem. That's why we're like, no,
they make money off of it.
Exactly. But a lot of people are trying to, a lot of people are trying to monetize it because it's the new thing. It's not. It's always been there. It's just it's the one thing you guys don't have control of that can actually fucking work. Excuse my French. That's the problem. It works. Okay, governments.
It works. Don't do well for industry.
Exactly. And so it's like, okay, you want instant effects? Smoke this joint. Okay, you want prolonged effects? Take this medication that has these cannabinoids in it. Like, we can help treat your cancer. It didn't say cure. I said treat. We can do all of these things. Oh, by the way, your house burnt down. You don't want a house to burn down again. You don't want a brick one. Let's build you a hempcrete one. That's a different story. We're not ready to have the conversation yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are still like, but it's bad, right? No, it's not. I'm not sure on this, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't marijuana been pulled from some DARE kind of, educational stuff across the nation?
I mean, I'm not familiar with the current DARE curriculum.
Right.
I can't imagine that they completely and totally ripped it out. I'm sure that the language and the discussion of it is not the same as it was 20 years ago. Right. And very well, certain regions or certain chapters.
That's where we start.
Chosen to take it out. Like I doubt.
Whoa. Hold your horses.
Okay.
You're telling me that these like marijuana educational programs have been pulled out of curriculum?
No. There was this propaganda campaign that was used to scare the shit out of kids. That was full of disinformation and lies that was used for years by law enforcement.
Yep.
Okay.
Consider it cannabis brainwashing in a sense. They told you don't ever smoke weed. You're going to get they told you they created a paranoia in DARE. It's drugs something rehabilitation education or something like that.
Education.
Yeah, that. What it really stands for, drugs are really expensive. That's what you should know. Okay, that's what you should know. Check it out. You want really good weed? You're not gonna buy some Mexican ditch weed. That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna go for the good shit. You see what I'm saying? And the same could be said about the heavy shit. But the fact of the matter is, stop creating a paranoia in kids. That's what it is.
Hold on. Is this a provincial program or
it was for what 30, 40 years? The Reagan.
Well, I mean, it's a countrywide program that was basically based in our school systems as a nonprofit organization. And they were talking about, at the time it was really focused on marijuana because of the statistics that were back then, right? Increased illegal use of marijuana by users, increased traffic accidents.
Let me add this. So it started out in high schools, okay, and then it trickled its way down to middle schools, and now they're wanting to put it in elementary schools. So kids that are 7, 8, our kids are 7 or 8 are learning that marijuana was the devil's lettuce. I'm serious. It's like that. So let's start there with cannabis education alongside the paper industry. When you're talking about the Industrial Revolution and all those things, start there and teach these kids that, don't be afraid of this plant just because it smells a little funny. You feel me?
Well, off of their website, they still are saying and advocating that the use of marijuana by youth is dangerous and healthy on many levels. So they're still advocating against cannabis with their programs.
That's my point.
But I mean,
that's insane to me because I've had so I live on a farm, obviously my 100-acre hemp farm. I've had 2 different universities that are super renowned and incredible for their curriculum and all of that good stuff have approached me about their botany program focused on cannabis, focused on that. So one of the universities is in Durham, and they implemented an economic summit for all this good agricultural things. They are literally advocating and talking about that. CannaCollective, my company, is pioneering, hey,
oh hell yeah,
here's why it's important to know about agriculture. And cannabis is genuinely the umbrella of this. You want to grow tomatoes, amazing. But we are genuinely changing the world with hemp.
Absolutely.
So
well, wouldn't it be nice to see?
My heart actually hurts a little bit to see that you guys aren't allowing, the youth in the U.S. to learn about that.
Wouldn't it be cool to utilize hemp in our high school agriculture classes just because of the fact of the many uses of it? It can be used as a food,
look at
plant, medicine.
You want the next Ed Rosenthal's? You're not going to find it in our generation. You got to teach your kids. You feel me? Because it's going to take years to form these genetics, these phenome hunters. Yeah, teach your kids that now. Teach your kids check it out. Let's grow your own medication right now.
Now it's easy. It's easier now. It's all right here in front of us. It's legal, right?
I'm still waiting for approval from Health Canada, but I made my own genetic this year.
There you go.
All of these farmers are asking for proof of concept. How does it grow? How does it do this? So I said, you know what? I'll meet you in the middle because I'm a good person. Don't touch that. Don't touch that area. Leave those 4 acres. Let it rain. Let it literally just do what it needs to do, and we'll see. I grew a different breed of genetic that's waiting to be bred and approved. Great. That's the point. This plant just wants to grow. Whatever you decide to do with it, the options are truly, truly endless. Why are we not teaching our kids that?
That's my point. We ain't ready to have that conversation yet because the stigma is still there. So that's where we kind of, I think our lawyer here would say, tiptoe through the tulips to get what we want.
I don't like
A little
tiptoe.
bit.
That's exactly what I'm saying, but yeah, I got you.
Nobody
But I'm saying,
tiptoes.
like, it's not a full win, but we've got to take this in strides. We've got to, chip away at it. Because if you try to bite the whole thing, it's just going to come tumbling down.
It's
I could
not,
not agree more, Shop.
it's not a marathon, it's a sprint.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but the tortoise is the one that won. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like I rode the tortoise and then I grew him hemp, and now
And
we're
that's
friends.
fine. I'm cool with that. You probably had like a little can of bud, like in a little fish stick, like a carrot in front of him. That's probably what happened.
Well, no, I rode him. Like
It's a good story of marijuana versus cocaine, if you will. You know what I'm saying? That bunny was just, whew. All right, I'll tell you.
You know what? You know who will always win.
Oh yeah. But and again, we have to be ready for that conversation. We have to be ready for that sex talk. Speaking of which, the strain of the week, it's interesting because the strain of the week was highly regarded to as a sex strain. That was pretty. I tested it. I'll be honest with you. I did.
You're happy with
I
that?
my girlfriend. I was like, smoke this.
You did.
Good results. Okay.
Yeah, it works. Your boy, it works. I can confirm that, but I couldn't confirm it during the show because I was like, all right, she's not here. So
Come on, you need to do a live Thomas run for us.
no.
Oh wait, we're still live.
I'm not filming that live. Why would I film that live? I'm gonna tell you. I don't even have to tell her you said that. She's gonna hear that you said that. She'll be like, Joseph, no.
Wait, what did you say?
Did you just advocate pornography? Is that what you did? That's what I heard.
No.
I heard.
I'm just trying to educate myself.
And again, we're not ready for that conversation.
No, we're definitely not ready for that conversation yet. All right. But speaking of the strain of the week, we can go right into it. Why don't you talk about the strain of the week right now? Because we're getting to the point of the show. We'll cover that, and then we'll end up.
We got some time. So the strain of the week this week came from Highly CannaCo in Traverse City, Michigan. Awesome facility. Shout out to them big time because they actually helped me get my med card very easily. It's on vacation. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, your boys got it. I'm legal across all fronts now, so fuck them. Anyway,
second.
Thank you. And so like, I love them, they helped me get it. It was stupid simple. It really was. I don't know why I was dragging my feet. It's my fault, whatever. But I got a hold of some sour cup cookies. Now it literally launched itself to the top 5. I'm not trying to sell it. It's seriously that good. And I'm going to go back. It was an exclusive. They were like, hey, we got this in, we want to drop it, but like, we don't have any reviews on it. Try this. And so I did. And I sent them back some good results. I was like, listen, if you don't start carrying this, I'm not coming back. Like, it was that good. It was really good, man. It was really good.
All right. Well, let's play the segment. We're going to go right into it. Here it is. The strain of the week by, if I can find it, Chef Rodney here. Hold on one second. I don't know what I do with it.
There you go. I just smoked the last of that too. Damn. It's gone.
It's gone, he says. It's gone.
I mean, that's why I like strain of the week.
To come to Canada and smoke all of our sweet Canadian strains.
Oh, I will.
Open invite.
Smoke so much weed. I'm gonna roll another weed. What up, Canada fam? It's your boy, Chef Rodney 117 from Deliciously Dope, bringing you another Deliciously Dope strain of the week. This week, hailing from Traverse City, Michigan, we got our homies, Highly CannaCo. That's at 752 Munson Avenue, like I said, in Traverse City, Michigan. This week, they're bringing us sour cup cookies. Now, sour cup cookies is a 70-30 sativa dominant hybrid that originates from crossing guessed it, sour diesel and Girl Scout cookies. The THC percentage on this is somewhat all over the map, so it really depends on where you're getting it. Now, it looks like you can get this anywhere from 15 to 28%, so again, it really does depend on where you're getting it. Now, the smell of sour cookies is somewhat ashy, earthy, and that profoundly sour diesel smell that we all know and love. Well, I love it anyway. I mean, you can hate on me if you want. The terpenes found in sour cookies are caryophyllene, myrcene, and limonene. Now, caryophyllene, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I'll learn soon, guys. It gives it those peppery notes. The myrcene, one of my favorites, because it's in mangoes, and I love mangoes. That gives it those herbal notes. And the limonene, you guessed it, are those citrusy notes in it. Now, there are a few more terpenes found, but those are the most 3 abundant found in sour cup cookies, excuse me. Medicinal benefits in sour cup cookies. Now, it's interesting because I searched the internet, far and wide, and was able to find a little bit about it. But here's what I did get from my very broadened search, if you will. A couple hours, y'all. It's highly referred to as a pain reliever and an antidepressant. It's often used in medical cannabis community to treat stress, causing your anxiety just to melt away, just as long as you don't overdo it as much. In this case, smoking too much. So be mindful of how you smoke this, how you ingest your cannabis this way, and keep an idea of how much. Now, keeping a journal on this strain sounds crazy, I know, but it would be a grand idea to consider. Those with chronic pain or inflammation will find relief very quickly, which I'm very sure means that the suggested way to find relief quickly would be to smoke it, considering that smoking and consuming cannabis through smoking is the fastest way to get almost instantaneous relief. Now, it really helps with fatigue, I was reading. Just again, as long as it's not overdone. So again, dosing properly, here's the name of the game according to my internet research. If overdone, please be advised that you will require a locksmith to get off of the couch. Some downsides to sour cup cookies were reported, and yeah, they did kind of suck, but it was the dry eyes and dry mouth, y'all. I mean, the dry mouth for me wasn't that bad. The dry eye, but I mean, it could have been my allergies, so not a big deal there. But just remember that water is life when dealing with this strain. Absolutely. This is a very, those with a high tolerance or beginning cannabis users who only smoke a little bit will enjoy the sativa sides of sour cup cookies. Brings on a nice, relaxed cerebral high, which triggers many people to become more talkative. And if y'all know me, I can't shut the hell up. So just imagine what it did to me. Overall, this is a solid strain that I'm going to definitely add to my future top 5. Flavors associated with sour cup cookies. I chose to smoke a bowl for this strain, and upon grinding it, I immediately noticed an aroma that was damn near intoxicating. And I can say with the utmost confidence that it tastes like it smells. Something interesting to note with this strain is that it's been noted to be a sex strain. Yeah, that's right. You heard that right. You heard it. Making some of the female users become more relaxed and aroused. There are reports and linking this, the reports that I read were linking this to the flavor associated with the strain more than the smell. But if you ask me, I mean, I can totally see what they meant. It's leaning more towards the flavor. It really is. But I do have to say that smelling it, then consuming it, changes it how it tastes. Or maybe that's just me. See, I rolled a joint of this, and then I picked it up, or I rolled a joint, set it down, then I picked up a couple other things I was doing. I was editing some videos, I was cooking some stuff, I just did some stuff around the house. So about an hour or so went by. And believe it or not, it did change the flavor. That flavor to me was more like a diesel cheese flavor, which is very associated to this, but it was like, and it's great, but a little different from when I tasted it when I ground it up and then smoked it, when it was freshly ground. Like more of an herbal note on the back of the tongue when I smoked it fresh, if that makes any any sense at all. But to me, it's just like I have a really sensitive palate. So noticing these things was right up the bat one of the things I was like, oh, that's different. That's the same strain, you know, that's different. But yeah, definitely, definitely a tasty cannabis to get your hands on. Suggestions, y'all. Food suggestions. Okay. Just Google sour cream cookies. Hands down, it's exactly where my mind went. Something delightful and dessert-like. This strain is a very happy strain, and cookies make anyone happy. Look at Santa Claus and his jolly ass. But in all seriousness, I would lean more towards bread and desserts with this one. Although it might also do well in ceviche if you do it right. Something with fruit. But, you know, if I actually had to make a food, like, you know, gun to my head, make a food, I actually might lean away just because, you know, I take that road less traveled, you know, that Robert Frost. I've always done that. I wouldn't be the exquisite asshole sitting in front of you if I didn't. So maybe a nice get streak over a pan-seared chicken breast, you know, over some wild rice garnished with some green onions. That's what I would probably do, y'all. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to do that one day. Our sponsor this week, y'all, Highly CannaCo. Out of Traverse City, Michigan. They're a family-owned and operated. They're family-owned, and then it's operated by some industry professionals who have nearly a decade of experience in regulated marijuana markets, cannabis markets. They really strive to incorporate education and assist customers in making the appropriate product selections that will best fit their medication lifestyles or you know, what they're trying to cure. So they're really leaning towards that, y'all. Their goal is to support local growers and processors by carrying the products that they, you know, their products and stuff like that. They're really a farmer's market. You know, that's the approach that they have to ensure the customers they have access to the best local products. They're committed to ensuring an enjoyable experience with every visit, and they're eager to serve you, you know, with a smile, really. I mean, I felt like family there. I really did. With store hours from, you know, 11 to 7 every day of the week, it's definitely an awesome, you know, 117, man. That's what it's about. It's what your boy loves it. But the address there is 752 Munson Avenue in Traverse City, Michigan. The phone number there is 231-642-2624. So make sure you go and peep them out when you find yourself in Northern Michigan. Tell them Chef Rodney from Deliciously Dope sent you. It's going to be an awesome time, y'all. Definitely go check out my Canna fam up there, y'all. Now it's time to smoke this. I almost said a bad word. Not real. Oh, that's tasty. Ooh, you get the cookies? Ooh. Definitely taste it. It's I like it. I definitely like it. You can taste almost everything in it. It's got that gas.
Approved.
I feel like we can smell it all the way in Canada.
It's reminiscent of Gorilla Glue, number 4, Road GG4. Yeah. Yeah. No. And this is the top 5. This is going top 5, y'all.
Ooh, that's a bold statement.
It highly can. Seriously, you knocked it out of the park with this one. I'm gonna have to keep us on deck. I have to keep us on deck. This is a bee's knees right there. That's you gotta get this. This is amazing. So amazing. I'm gonna keep smoking this. Just gotta make sure I don't overdo it. Really?
I always overdo it.
Yeah. This is, you gotta get some of this. All right, guys, gals, Batmidler, zombies, and everybody alike. This has been Deliciously Dope Strain of the Week on In the Weeds
Watch
podcast.
those end credits, though.
Every Wednesday at 4:20 to 6:20. I'm your boy, Chef Rodney 117. Peace!
Listen, if you were baked and you're watching these end credits, it looks cool as hell.
I'm sorry.
I'm not mad at them.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at them at
It's
all.
not bad for somebody that doesn't have a film degree, man. I mean, it was, me and my buddy was like, hey, let's just do this. And so we're like, yo, this looks cool. This looks legit as hell. And then I realized that I talk a lot. So we're gonna
it's a habit of a stoner, I think.
That's the perfect storm. That makes total sense.
Yeah, but no, honestly, again, thanks to Highly CannaCo, they were amazing. I definitely felt like I had to give them a huge shout out because they really did help me kind of, get on the legal side of things. Now they're like, listen, you're going to run into this more. Might as well take care of it now. And so we did. And I can't say enough good about them. I'm excited about, next week's strain, honestly. I am started a bunch of new projects. I got a new podcast coming out. That's every Tuesday and Thursday at 10:17. So that's pretty cool. And it's like, I'm tying it all together, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And like becoming that successful stoner that they said I couldn't be, and that's just part of like an entrepreneurial mindset, really. But
this is the time, man. This is the time.
And everything about it. So, hey, tell me, because our director of cultivation, Ellen Taylor Brown, who's incredible, Sensimia, she's super focused on education. She's all about the genetics. You're doing like similar kind of things, and I'm really trying to bring all the Americans up to Canada because you, for weirdly reasons, have better genetics than us.
I mean, and it's funny because it's like, and I'm glad you said that because I went to a couple of dispensaries where the marijuana was grown near there. So up north in northern Michigan.
You have good soil.
Yeah, it tastes better.
Better.
I said it. I said it.
Thank you.
We can all agree on that, I think. Well, I think a lot of the grows that we're seeing that end up in the stores now are indoors, right? So when you're indoors, you can provide any climate you want. So most of these strains are easily adaptable anywhere, right? Until you put them outside. You know what I mean? Right. A lot of these strains can't handle northeast weather, northern weather, I guess you could say, cold, short
if
season.
You gave me some flower that smelled like a birch tree, I would literally just reach into my chest, grab my heart, and hand it to you. I'd be like, that's fair trade.
Honestly, I feel like we just became best friends. Do you know what I'm looking directly outside my window at?
Birch trees.
My birch trees.
Yo, listen, birch trees are just like awesome trees that are just like
their soil. Yeah, we're finding that it's loamy, but not too loamy. My farm is natural irrigation, but hi, Bali.
That's a wolf. That's nature saying, don't fuck with me.
Right? Yes.
Guaranteed they'll eat a CBD treat and be fine about an hour.
Well, my Rottweiler and Belgian Malinois, no, they don't like trespassers. That being said, hold on 1 second. Ball. They're hard going at it.
That's cool. I have a husky. He yells at me all the time. I just exist. He's like, yo,
I gotta cut out. We're gonna go
Tim.
Happy birthday, dude.
Happy birthday, Timmy. Thank you for joining us today.
Happy birthday,
Chef. So great to see you guys. See you all next week, I hope.
Yes.
We do this again.
Yes. Lunar Store next week. It'll be a great show.
Definitely. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Awesome, Timmy. Thank you. All right. Danyka's going to go take care of her animals. She was there. Speaking of mutts, we've got my little annoying pug.
Look at that thing.
Everybody meet Sam.
I want to talk to Samson.
What is that? That is a pug.
He's got a little pug.
No, that pug looks like he's like forever living as radio static.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm sorry, like that's just like I want to like smack him a little bit and see if the snow globe will settle.
Yeah, right. He falls back to one color. Yeah, he's an oddly brindle, white, black, and tan pug. So he's got a three-way brindle.
He's adorable, man. Look at this thing. What is this?
But he's very neat.
German Shepherd of some sort, isn't it?
He's a Belgian Malinois.
I wonder if I can get my old boy to come on camera. I probably could. He won't stand still for shit. But I have an AKC pure Siberian Husky.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Or as they aptly call them, assholes with tails. Yes. No. It's like buying a kid. I'm gonna go get mine. That's what happened.
You're not a bumhole, are you? This guy's from Tel Aviv, and I got him when I was in Indonesia, and we met in Toronto.
There you go. I bet you're smart as a whip, isn't he?
This is just a pug.
I know.
Now our
and
dogs turn into a dog show.
You know, it's cool. Like I told you, dude, cannabis is going now. Animal Planet, what's up? Yo, let's do this show.
Right.
Wait,
Your
hold
puppy.
on. Are we talking
And
about
it's
Disney
G
right
rated because you know people say it. Yeah, it's terrible. But the point is, show us your puggles. There you go. There
Well, I
you
mean,
go.
it's actually a great conversation to have with cannabis is the animal thing. You know, we were talking about feed earlier, and you know, we are talking about I've even gone through situations where I've had vets tell me that marijuana drunken down a dog or hurt a dog and how unsafe it is. But then we see it in all these dog treats now, right? And it's also becoming a very looked upon beneficial market for animal feed, right? So the feed our pigs, our cattle, get rid of the corn because corn's really not the best, right? And again, we talk about the depletion in our soils, our agriculture, stuff like that. I mean, it's not a bad grain, but we should be feeding our animals a little bit better stuff.
I got
right?
a funny story. So my girlfriend and I have been trying to figure out who our roach thief was.
The roach thief.
We have two dogs. We have Jake, which is her like 100-pound yellow lab. He's a big goober. That boy don't know his size. He'll knock everything down in the studio here. It's not fun. When he gets happy, he starts jumping as tall as you are. He's a big boy. Then you got my 50-pound husky. All right, but who's eating the roaches? They're disappearing. We ain't smoking them. Who's eating our roaches? Jacob was stealing the roaches. So that dude snoozing, no, he ain't being good. He's zonked out right now. That's what happened. And the problem is, you don't know which way to go right now because I do strain of the week. So I got all kinds of strains in my house right now that do different things.
Yep.
People don't understand. I'm subjecting my body to cannabis nature right now, going, yo, is today going to be a really good day or is it going to be a bad day? Let's figure it out with the strain. And so, like, these medicinal benefits, trust me, I can tell you, I'm going through that. And then my dog can tell you he ain't waking up for 4 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what happened.
Well, one of my favorite pictures this year, I think, is the mouse. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, but the mouse passed out eating a leaf, right? He was eating someone's plants, and they caught him, and he was sleeping in the bucket, right?
Oh, he's done.
Belly up, plant in his mouth. Poof, best night's sleep he ever had, right? But that is the question, though. How's it transfer over to animals? And
that's the thing. Again, if we're going to talk about it, and I do know a little bit about this, mammals is important. Mammals.
Hold on, give me 2 seconds because I just learned genuinely something that's really interesting, and I'm wondering about what you guys are doing for US. So go on, you first.
Well, we got to answer the question though. If you
we didn't even ask the question. But no, I mean,
did she just get stoned and walk away and be like, "Yo, I'm gonna ask you a question, but I'm not gonna." And then I
think she's gonna go find the information to base the question upon to ask us about us.
But that's the thing. We should point that out though because it is important. Mammals, right. You know what I'm saying? Because they have the same endocannabinoid system as we do. Reptiles do not. Birds do not. They do love wheat though. I mean, it's true.
What if we get snake high? What will happen, right? I mean, again, most of those they have different diets, right? Well, they have different diets. A snake stealing your weed probably isn't going to happen. A snake stealing your small animals, your rodents, that's probably more of an issue, right? But like you said, mammals, right? How does it affect these mammals? For a long time, vets were saying it's horrible for dogs. It's dangerous for dogs, right? And again, we see people do dog treats a lot, and they're using the same distillates.
And what she was saying earlier, you've got that one farmer that messed up that one expensive piece of equipment. You've got that one story where he ate fudge brownies and the fudge was the one. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. It's like with these COVID test results right now, or these COVID deaths. They're saying, "Oh, COVID's killing them." No, that was pneumonia because they had the flu or whatever had you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they could have had COVID or whatever have you, but it's not what did them in. You understand? That's not what's actually harming your pet right now. It's maybe all of the bad niter bullshit that you're feeding it, in addition to, the chocolate that it licked off the floor that your high ass dropped or something. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yes, vets were saying that, but we have to look at it more in depth because now they're saying the exact opposite.
Right. It's propaganda.
I'm going to take it. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to take it a step. I'm going to take it a step further because yes, all of those variables. What are the dogs eating when we're not looking at all of that? Here's the thing, and this is why all of the farmers call BS because I'm a young new farmer in my area. But the fact remains, if we're concerned about what they're eating off the floor in our house, think about what they're eating off of the soil, off of what they're eating on what we're growing.
Yep.
So if I can get an amen on that, we need to be cognitive. People who are saying currently, oh, I'm an organic farmer. That's really lovely. So what are you putting organic into your farm? Oh no, I don't spray it, or I do spray it, but over biannually.
Do you guys have this new thing coming up around in your cannabis market called the no-till market?
Pardon
me. Do you know what a no-till is?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a huge craze right now in Michigan. It's sweeping across the state. You know, a lot of people are switching from what they're growing currently to a no-till if they're growing it outside.
And
well, that's part of the conversation we're having today about soil, right? I mean, that's a big part of the regenerative soil process is a no-till. How do we get that no-till market though to get to our industrial market? Oh, I got a little bit of get a little bit of feedback there. Well, that's part of the conversation today, right? Was the no-till. I mean, we end up at no-till line, like you said. You can taste the difference. It's basically recreating an agriculture, an ecology, I guess you could say, in a bucket, right? Or a pot, or whatever these people are growing in. There's many different ways to do that, and there's many different farming aspects you can do it under. But you know, there's a process to that. You know, the no-till is different than, like we were saying, super soils. That's why, you know, when we have Tom on, we love having, you know, the growers talk about it, because it's more than just the soil. People talk about getting compost and mixing some cocoa in there or some pro mix, and that's their soil base. But that's not even a super soil, really. To me, that's just a store-bought soil, right? The live soil, like Chef was saying, you know, to create a market is amazing. Here in Vermont, we have a huge live soil. We don't necessarily have a market here that's like a composed market, but there's a structure that's part of the, you know, that's part of that craft bud. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really considered, you know, a lot in our opinions out here, you're not really considered medicinal nor craft if you're not growing in live soil, right? But now again, how do we get live soil back to our industrial agriculture, right? Like, whether, even if we're talking corn or any other sorts of things, like we had Rick on last week, and him and Thomas were talking about this, and I wish Danyka was here to be in this conversation, because I know the thought and theory process is to rotating your crops around your field, you know, moving your cannabis after so many years of a run, so you can keep that soil going. But you know, a lot of people, especially within commercial agriculture, you don't see a lot of greenery around their crops, right? It's just dirt, because they mow a field, they till it, and then they throw seeds in it, and then they just let it grow where it sits, right? So there's no cover crops, there's no worms, there's really no regenerative soil there, because they just keep retilling the topsoils. How do we make that work, Danyka? I mean, we've talked about Kiss the Ground as a great expose into this issue, especially when we talk about global warming, right? Our carbon levels are through the roof, and then, you know, we've seen interesting aspects of when we're growing and when we're not growing, and how the carbon works around the world. How do we integrate that into commercial farming? Because that's kind of what you're doing now, right? That's part of your CannaCollective objective, right? Is to help transform some of these farmland into a regenerative, you know, based farm, right?
Right. So I'm genuinely glad that you brought that up, because each farm, and I mean, that makes complete sense. Each farm is completely different based on what they've previously been cropping or doing with their soil. You know, I have clients that have done nothing, and they've hired other custom farming. So when we talk about zero tillage, that is where, and oh man, I'm genuinely so glad that you brought that up. Kiss the soil, kiss the ground, know your soil. That is the best thing that I can say to any of my clients, because zero tillage is something that we want to do in a position where it hasn't had, like you were mentioning, the nitrogen and all of that stuff that needs to be taken out of the ground. So it's kind of a two-part answer, where I would say phytoremediation, clean your soil. Then, oh my God, why are you distracting me with that? Like, I can't get any work done with that. But it completely, so the zero tillage is depending on what your soil originally looked like. And what we want to do is know whether it's loamy or sandy, because that's going to make a huge difference in what you're cultivating.
Mhm.
So when I advocate Kiss the Ground, this documentary, or regardless of any movie, do a soil test, do all of that good stuff. If there is an option to do no tillage, then I strongly recommend that. But if you're converting a cash crop like I've done for the past 3 years, unfortunately, there may be the reality that we need to till that back in. We need to get to know our soil. We need to do all that good stuff. But and I said this earlier, it's important to know what you're growing and where you're growing it from, right? Like, I don't necessarily have a strong green thumb for the Venus flytrap plant. I killed her, unfortunately. I feel sad about that. What I do know is what 76 acres looks like on natural irrigation with loamy soil, having lime and magnesium added, because that's what was missing. So we all need to kind of gear what we're up to in that sense.
Well, you said a word that I don't think a lot of people talk about enough either, or understand even: phytoremediation. I know it's a favorite word of yours.
I think it might be put on my tombstone, yes.
Well, explain to people what phytoremediation is. I mean, I know you kind of just explained it now, but it was a word that just came up that you used earlier.
So phytoremediation, it's really in its simplest form. Phytoremediation is a beautiful act of hemp which goes in and takes, for whatever reason, whether it be contaminated or toxic is grown into it, it takes that, it absorbs it. So then our good friend Chef Ronnie was talking about how we can then repurpose that, which is the next step, which is incredibly important. But we're seeing that done in developing countries like Nepal, for instance. When I was at the Asian Hemp Summit, and all of these tiny communities are letting hemp grow feral, but nobody knows what to do with it. So we're coming in and we're really putting back into the soil. And I think that long term, that's what we need to see. And I know you mentioned last week, and Chef Ronnie mentioned, what we do with that after we take it out of the soil, because now we have good, clean, brand new, beautiful soil. Now it's the next step. But I don't think that it's something as farmers that we're paying enough attention to. For instance, cash crops, nitrogen is depleting. We can do multiple things, but I think that, and to quickly segue, what I love about this industry right now is that we're actually bridging generation gaps. I have like the best conversations with gentlemen and females and all these amazing people in my area that want to know more about hemp. They want to know what I'm up to. They remember, in the 70s when somebody grew hemp and I'm the first one to do it. And these are veterans that have been loving their soil and paying immense amount of attention to it. And now we're super bridging that generation gap, and we have something in common. And I want them to tell me more, and I want to learn more.
They're the biggest customers here in Michigan for CBD and THC. It doesn't matter. It's that age, and it's interesting because it's so my friend makes this CBD tincture and balm here locally called Mother's Infusions. And so I was like, all right, check it out. It said Mother's for a reason. And for all the people that know personally in my life, a few years ago, I lost my mom, but I also always did have, it's okay. She's no longer suffering. She was a huge advocate of cannabis. So we're good. She's probably the one going, yeah, I'm going to open this door for him. And then I just walk through it. She knows. He's half stoned. It's cool. But my second mom, my best friend's mom,
name?
Vicky.
Vicky. Hi, Vicky. Thanks for pioneering.
She's probably up there. She's probably very high. Yes.
Definitely.
Anyways, so Cheryl, my second mother, she helped raise me. She knew my mom. We were all, friends. She was at my mom's funeral, the whole nine. Well, she came to me and she goes, I'm having these headaches. I'm having this. I'm having that. What's going on? This medication they got me on is not working. I go, well, what you need is CBD. And she goes, yeah, maybe not. That was 6 months ago. A month, not even a month ago, 2 weeks ago, she came over and she was like, you gotta, I want some of this CBD and I need it now. I'm like, oh, because you saw Martha Stewart do it. It's fine, whatever. So I was like, here you go, try this. And I handed her some of my buddy's tincture and I use the same thing. I'm not selling the product. I'm just saying it does work. People do what works. I liked it. I tried it. Even a cannabis, I wouldn't say connoisseur, but a person new into cannabis trying these new things, I can tell you that it does work. And then he has the balms that he makes as well, which are just amazing. So we gave her one of each. Okay. We gave her the CBD end that he has. And I'm not even within 15 minutes it worked. 15 minutes, y'all. Not 2 weeks waiting for you to get it into your bloodstream. Not, 2 weeks to wait for you to wean off of this so you can take that, so you can take this, so you can pay us more money for that. No, 15 minutes. Anxiety was no longer there. So I was like, those headaches you're getting, rub this stuff on your temples and it'll help. Dude, that night she went to bed. She slept the full 8 hours. She goes, that's the best sleep I've gotten in years. In years. She called me. She goes, how much do I need to pay to get more of this? I was like, you don't. I'm gonna work for that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my point. It's curing her. And she's literally in tears because she was spending hundreds of dollars a month with insurance, I might add, in the States here for her medications that were basically, but the side effect is creating that, but that's trying to create. No, this is, you get it in you, you're good.
Well, I mean, the stigma, man, it's that stigma. And unfortunately, what does it take to erase that stigma? So, like you said, Martha Stewart, dude, you know what? I bet you Martha Stewart has inspired a lot of this older generation to consider cannabis because, again, these are people that they look to. They a lot of people look at Martha Stewart like a doctor, right?
Well, let's be serious. Martha Stewart definitely held a pocket during her comeback. That being said, though, to your guys' point, I think that it is breaking a stigma and it's breaking a generation stigma. Right. It's opening the conversation because, my Nana, who is my favorite person and is incredible, she's my business partner. 10 years ago, I fully would have been caught with a pop can with holes in it, smoking marijuana, and it would not have been the same conversation. Versus now it's like, okay, hey, to both your points, why isn't this medicine readily available? How do we break the stigma?
A lot of you gotta. Okay, I got the answer. Okay,
tell me.
Some people in that generation will deflect and absorb that. Okay. They'll be like, oh, but I wasn't the politician. See, I liked smoking the weed. Well, the problem is you said the weed. That right there shows me what side of the fence you're on. If you call it the weed or the pot, I no longer believe anything you said after that. Okay. Because if you've ever actually smoked the weed or the pot, you know not to call it the weed or the pot. So that tells me where you're at. More so, I look at it as, but you still had a time and a voice to say no. And you didn't. So that makes you partly to blame indirectly, but you're to blame. I mean, you're guilty by association. The only difference is we have the tenacity, the chutzpah, the ferocity, if you will, to I know, right? To stand up and be like, no, this is not right. We're allowed to make decisions, based off of new information and change our mind. You understand? The problem is,
oh my God, that honestly, that is it. That just nailed it, to change our mind. And that is the beautiful evolution of knowledge. And why are we not learning? And maybe it's different for every single person. Maybe it's not right, but that you hit it, to change our mind and learn more.
That's usually it's usually somebody with a medical condition, right? Somebody close to you, a family member, a kid, somebody you're friends with, and you go, oh shit, they have cancer. And then you see that something works.
Let me
Now-
break down stigmas for you real quick with just my jacket. Check it out. I got this new gnarly little jacket and I put some
Wait, I can't
patches
see
on
your
it.
gnarly jacket.
I got Deadpool right here. People love that. You know, people are like, oh, I get that. But on the other side, I got a frilly little princess pony, little unicorn. I'll get yelled at for this. Anybody that wants to yell at it, hit my inbox. Go ahead. But make sure you hit me with something I don't know about myself.
Right.
Make sure you hit me with something that I can't prove to you. Make sure you know me before you hit me with that. Because if you don't, this is going to be real fun for me because I'm going to come back and I'm going to come back on fire. That's the problem. These stigmas exist off of shit that's, from the 1960s. It's no longer relevant. If Tim were here, would say, yo, there's there's certain laws that clearly can't be in effect these days because times change. We evolve as a people.
Like that DARE program we were talking about earlier, right? That was established in 83, I think, if I read it right, 84. Still working off fundamentals back in the 80s. Like, let's talk about a DARE program. Do they talk about opioid addiction? Do they talk about heroin addiction?
Yeah.
Do they talk about our recent issues in life? I mean, unfortunately, you guys had hit on an issue that I love to talk about is like, we generally see 90% support across the country for cannabis, right? At least in America, right? And how we can't be legalized or all on the same page, or at least have the same basic fundamental knowledge of what it's used for medicinally, industrial, like all these great things that we talk about every week, right? Like a lot of people have no clue what we talk about on a daily basis and how it works and how it can be implemented. Because
I will gladly sacrifice some of my stash and roll one up and light it for him and give it to Mitch McConnell. You just fuck off. I'll be honest with you. Like, dude, your shit's outdated. I'm sorry. Like, not as a politician, just as a person. Like, bro, if everybody were to live the way you live, we would all look like turkeys with gullets that are way too big, man. That's not weird. That's not sexy. You should just sit the fuck back down, bud.
But even on that level, though, you have this discussion. We talk about politicians. We even from the Vermont side, right? Right down the states. We'll talk about this real quick. And this is what sucks about being a politician, because we can shit on these guys all we want, but at the same note, Mitch McConnell's being influenced. Obviously, these guys have all of influences, whether it's a financially backed influence, a business,
green, it's all
right? But they only have certain people in their ear talking to them all the time. We live in a community that's cannabis based, so we're always talking to each other. We are each other's friends, so we are the ones in the knowledge of what's going on right now. But like when we were trying to pass the legislation in Vermont, to go down to the state house for 2 or 3 months like we did, and to talk to people, dude, they have no clue. You know what I mean? Like they literally have no fucking clue. Most of these politicians grew up in a stigmatized world with laws and stuff surrounding and attacking and the drug wars. And most of these guys come from a legal background, right? To get into politics, you have some sort of legal background in most cases, right? So these guys are from a world of stigma, right? Like when we were talking a few weeks ago about the governor of what was it, Illinois, who came out and was like literally like basically calling even the medicinal properties of cannabis a hoax, right? He was just literally calling it all out. And me and Tim were like, is this political suicide or not? You know what I mean? But then again, you see a 50-50 draw there going, so there's still 50% of the people will still agree to this, right? Because again, they're doctor, they haven't been affected directly. I mean, we talk about it a lot. Look at all our parents that, are maybe not, for it. But then again, my biggest, and for me personally, my biggest inspiration of change was a little girl that had cancer that was being cured by cannabis, right? That was the biggest, that's where everything turned for me personally. I was just a stoner. I grew up as a street stoner, a street kid. Like, we just went and got the kush, we went and got the best weed, we hustled it, we sold it, we did all sorts of fun stuff with it, right? But when you reach a certain age and you have that impact, right? Like even for some of these politicians that we've seen jump the line, if you look at their story, more likely somebody within their family had a cancer or seizures or something that they actually saw cannabis work.
So touching on that, man, before we kind of get out of here, I want to know how Thomas is doing right now at that party with that edible.
I genuinely was thinking about that. Like, you.
I was like,
dude, I bet you he's just sitting there enjoying every moment quietly.
Oh my God. I'm going to text him here. I'm going to give him another like 30 minutes to be like, hey man, you good? see what happens. Cause
do you need an Uber?
Right. No, I bet he's not driving.
Will take care. I don't think that they actually were going to leave, but I mean, I say that
He's
like I'm his
home.
neighbor. I don't know, but man lives his life. But let's just hope he wasn't, driving. I'm sure he wasn't, but I really hope he was not.
Definitely wasn't.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, homeboy took 225 to the dome. That's just
See, and that touches on like your point again is like know
Yeah.
your limit, all of that, and even like us smoking or not smoking on conference calls is breaking a stigma. Know what you can do.
Yeah.
Know what
Yep.
it is, your trajectory. If you're at night times, that's
Yeah.
great.
I mean, check it out. Right there is my medical marijuana card. Like, they can't say shit about it now.
No.
Period.
And it's more about knowing exactly what you're up to. And like I said, I was a naysayer before. I worked for, huge companies. Come to find out, everybody smokes marijuana for one reason or another, which no judgment. But I was very not on that team at first.
What it is, and if we had to sum it up, and I want to touch on that too, what it is my generation come from a generation of people who said, yeah, weed is bad, but at the same time, I smoke the shit out of it. So basically, do as I say, not as I do. That's not going to work for me.
Well, it's working within the laws that you're bound by, right? Like, I mean, these guys, your jobs rely on.
That we're chipping away at is my point.
Right.
It's not going to work because here's the thing. That reign of power, that do as I say, not as I do type of thing, that's coming to an end very quick.
Yeah,
it's extremely toxic, and it's not okay. You feel me?
I mean, how many jobs have you worked at in your life where they're literally like, you shouldn't do this, but you want to go smoke a blunt in the cooler? Right. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, as a chef,
these are the rules, these are the laws.
Point,
right. They're there if you get caught. There's drug tests involved in a lot of these jobs where cannabis was part of that drug test for many times, and you just can't get rid of it doesn't leave your system like an opioid does, right?
I was front of house for a very long time. Same thing. It's not cute. Yeah. Now we're shifting. We're becoming more educated. We're becoming educated on what strain, like you were talking about, like strain.
We're doing what they told us we couldn't do.
I love everything about that. Now there's that's exactly it. I have a close friend who's epileptic. What strain works for him would not work for me per se. What works for my, my cancerous grandfather whom I love will not work. So it's important to be educated, which is why I love everything about what we're up to in this industry is educating each other, like Joe and his media show, you and your strains of the week, me and my agriculture, we're all educating, and I think it's really,
we're all connected at the roots. That's what it is.
We're all learning. Every day is something new to learn. I mean, the industry is vastly growing and the opportunities are there. And to utilize this in this one particular plant in the ways we can, especially with, like you said, the rejuvenation projects that are abundant out there, the fibers, the construction applications, the feed applications, and even utilizing it as a food for human consumption is very beneficial. We've had Dr. Bob on the show numerous times, and Dr. Bob bounces off the walls with energy, and he literally lives off a very knowledgeable endocannabinoid diet, right? So he not only utilizes cannabis, but there's also a lot of terpenes and cannabinoids found in other foods that people don't even think about.
Cannabis across the board is just shattering records. They're like, you can't get this projected sales, really? Because we just hit 100 million in a month. You know what I mean? And it's just like, for every wall that they put up for cannabis legally, we decimate it.
Well, it's bringing back holistic. I think the best thing about it is it's bringing back the holistic approach to medication and to, again, diet. Not only medication, but diet. You know what I mean? We've talked to Rosemary Gladstar before. She's absolutely amazing. If you guys haven't read anything about her, she is one of the best herbologists in the country, right, in the world. She's absolutely amazing. But like the funny thing is, and you guys started leading on this earlier about what it was like 100 years ago. Like we cured everything with an herb, a plant, a root, or something, right? But sadly, when you think about in our country witchcraft, right? This is one of the cool things I learned by talking to these herbalists. Like they were literally considered they're our witches, our day and age witches, right? Because that's how they cure themselves. They're making potions. They're making
and it wiped it out. And it's
So when you think about cannabis as a whole and the whole stigmas and everything based around it, and, we've been using this date back to Egyptian times, right? Like how far
I
back
saw
does
this
cannabis go?
person with this shirt on because it's Instagram and it's fall and stuff like that. And she had this shirt that said, "All my bitches are witches," and I laughed. I was like, "That's pretty funny."
No, it's true, man. When you're an herbalist, you're literally outlawed for and banned for years. I mean, a lot of these women worked underground. They have no medical support, right? And they're considered witches. And now in the last 10, 15 years, not quite so much on the East Coast, we're realizing that these people had it right the whole time, right? Asian medicines, I guess you could say. All these focuses on roots, like you said, the endocannabinoid systems that we all have, animals have, we all have it. Whether you know about it or whether your doctor knows about it is a different story. Because again, this is just something they're starting to.
Yo, you guys know how you say
now.
you're breaking up some weed and you find a seed, it's good luck. Skunk number 1 right here.
There you go.
You have to leave with Danyka.
Just hopefully you don't get more than one.
I will. No, it's funny because it's cryo cured. I will. I name all my everything. My daughter, when she was born, I was naming her stuffed animals and stuff for her. So it's like I always name everything.
I love it.
I'll let you know how it does too. Hopefully it pops. It's funny because I learned something that this weekend about cryo cured seeds because I was like, oh, they're cryo cured, so they're ruined. No.
They'll still grow.
No, they'll still grow, and they'll grow better genetics too. So it's funny that you should mention that. People are altering genetics by cryo curing weed.
Mm-hmm. No, there's a lot of different ways you can do it.
Yeah. Like so have you ever had cryo cured weed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know you have.
Not to my knowledge, truly.
Okay. So here it is, right here. That's the same nug, the same everything, right?
Okay.
But it feels like styrofoam a little bit, and you can't put it in a grinder because it'll gum up. It's literally frozen. You see what I'm saying? As it comes off the plant and it's cured. But I can, pinch it up, and it feels just like, and it everything just crackles down, grinds in your hand.
Flash freeze it so it dissipates the water, kind of like
it locks in everything.
Temperature, but it freezes the water and then it vacuums it out of the chamber.
So it cures and dries it in about 24 hours instead of waiting a couple of weeks or whatever.
In your pipe, in your bowl. Yeah. And it's really, what's nice about it though is there's no THC yet. So it's THCA. It's full of really all natural terpenes, but you don't lose any cannabinoids really in the process. Where in curing, you lose probably a good 30 to 50% of your cannabinoids just by the cure
depending
process
on how you cure
off-gassing.
and whatnot.
Yeah. If you're gonna do a proper cure, maybe even more. But that's where everybody has the argument because it's like, well, THC, it tastes better, it gets me higher. Well, yeah, because your THC levels are becoming more predominant. Obviously, you're losing other cannabinoids. Temperatures, like you guys said something about cooking, right? Understanding cooking, like of any oils. Like so, as a chef, you learn very quickly that you can't really saute with olive oil, but you really shouldn't. It burns out low smoke point, right? We talk about this with cannabis a lot, especially with the strains of the week and burning off terpenes and like where people press their weed at, where they actually decarb their weed at. And we posted a couple of cool, really cool graphs where THC burns off around 220, but cannabinoids start burning off around 180, 185. Correct. So if you're
150 actually.
Right. So if you're trying to produce medicine with the most cannabinoids for a patient, that's why I say the medical industry and the cannabis market, the rec markets are two totally different focuses in the markets because right now they cross over too much to me. You know what I mean? Like there's too much stoner items that the medical consumers are taking because that's what's available to them. It's not their fault, right? But again, when we start focusing on more strain-specific strains that utilize medicinal benefits, like you were saying, a different strain will work for you, then will work for Roddy, then will work for me. And there's probably 3 or 4 that will work for your ailment right away if you know the specific strain and you know what you're going through, right? What you're trying to look for. Like Rodney was saying earlier, the strain of the week was a great strain to promote sex. You know what I mean? It's an aphrodisiac more than anything, right? And there's strains for headaches, there's strains for PMS, there's strains that can do lots of different things. You just need to know that strain. That's why the strain of the week to us is very important because a lot of that distillate and those products you're getting are like we talked to many different lab techs. They're all blends of everything that comes into the lab, right? But they put certain terpenes in it that, again, it's not technically strain specific really, but you have terpenes in it. So what cannabinoids do you have left in it when you are processing it and it ends up in a vape cart? You know what I mean? And is that medicine for somebody that's consuming for medical cannabis? Danyka.
Thanks for being coach. No, that is exactly the point, bringing it full circle to about soil rejuvenation. So we're talking about all of obviously how it's cultivated and the genetics and all of that beautiful stuff that people obviously can Google. What people cannot Google is their soil.
Correct.
So that is what I'm like really trying to drive into people, and I'll give free advice. If you don't know what soil you're working with, how do you know what's going to come? So to your point of it comes to all this, it comes to fruition in this and that.
Mhm.
How do you, if you're making an end product, and I'm asking for like all of our Canadian consumers and our Canadian viewers, what would be your advice when you're starting something like that? Would you specifically first look at for soil?
I mean, again, it depends on your situation, I think, and finances. I think before people will just run out to the store and grab a bag of Fox Farm because it's quick and easy and it's got everything they need and it's cheap and it's affordable, right? Now, will that do the job?
Available.
Yeah, he'll do the job. But again, we're working on what's available to us, right?
Right.
Some people will travel states over to get, compost from certain places because they know what's in it, right?
Mhm.
But now, again, we talk about the trend for live soil, no-till, right? Now that's something we can make, right? That's something you're basically creating a system.
But
A lot of
that's
people go out.
assuming you have the volume and that's assuming you have the volume and the land.
Right. Well, I mean, people will
Yeah.
do it on an indoor grow too. Live soil is becoming a very integral part of indoor grows, craft grows, because
Micro
of
grows is what
the
they're
product
calling
that
it.
it grows, right?
Yeah.
Right. And now when you transplant and you have all this soil, you're not throwing your soil away. You didn't waste your soil. Like a lot of these growers will pull roots and throw their soil away because they're like it's dead. They sucked all the nutrients
No.
out of it. Well, if you have live soil, it gets better. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And that's why, and as I say, as grows are happening more and more live. So now we're starting to see people take them out of pots and actually do like raised bed grows indoors and
Yep.
just do rows, because the least amount you have to handle it, the better, because you have, all these microorganisms are now in your soil. You have worms in your soil. You have castings. And that's where the top cover comes in. So importantly, a lot of people fail live soil because they forget to plant something else within their cannabis, right?
Right.
You have living organisms. You have worms. They have to eat, right? You want them to provide worm castings. You need them to eat. So
They gotta
that's
eat.
where that top coat comes into play. Where it's like, what are you feeding them? Is it moss?
So
Is
this
it
right here, this is cryo cured. I'm gonna show you how it burns.
Right.
Actually,
See, also,
Because-
do you know what we're doing in Canada? You know how you grow, and you would know, Joe, we've talked about beets. The roots of all the hemp are being cleaned
Mhm.
and sold at Whole Foods for like 49 cents a root.
Well, I believe that within your roots. Yeah, well, I mean, within your roots, you have different cannabinoids that end up to stay in your roots.
there's
right?
medicinal properties in those
yeah.
said roots.
Very, very much, right? And then a
Absolutely.
lot of the plant roots that we see, there's medicinal properties. I mean, a potato is a plant root technically, right? So
Well, remember I told you about the other meeting that is exactly what they were discussing. So it's incredible to see.
All right, I'll tell you. I got a recipe I'm working on, and it's funny you should say this. It's actually pickled cannabis roots.
What?
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Tell
So
me
if you
more.
think about it, so like, you've had like, pickled salads of onions, and you've got pickles, obviously, and
Yeah.
you're pickling okra and all that cool shit. Well,
Nice
all
shredded.
you can pickle garlic, you know what I'm saying? You can make black garlic. So
Ginger.
I was like, yo, how can I make, something with cannabis roots? And I was like, oh, brilliant. Take it, mix it with a little bit of onions. You got pickled cannabis roots.
Yeah, I mean, you got pickled ginger, you got pickled eggs. For Christ's sake, you can pickle anything.
You can make
It's not hard
cannabis
to
root
pickle.
kombucha.
Right, and it'll soften it up, and you could probably use it as in multitude of things. It depends on what your pickling process would be, or just eat them because they are very beneficial. All the parts of the plants are beneficial. That's why when you get whole plant products,
Absolutely.
when it's really legit whole plant, they utilize that root. They utilize the stems.
What do they call that? The white ash club. I wish y'all could see that.
Now, when we're talking about the cryo cure, Cannabis Organics chimed in too. And he was saying part of the reason why it has that fluffy texture and gives it that puffy, airy feel is that when you dissipate the water, the cell structures
Yep.
stay right where they were. So when you dissipate the water, obviously water takes up space.
See, and I would have said it like that, but I got high off of said cryocure and forgot all of that. So no, I'm joking. I didn't know any of that shit. That's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, it definitely comes out.
That one.
It definitely comes out to be an interesting texture. And then I think when you do like the large scale of cryocures, I mean, there's different systems that will allow it to become a little bit less of that. But we've seen the cryocure technology. We've had those guys on the show, Tracy and Greg.
They're killing it. They're killing it.
And their products are amazing, man.
And you know where they're from? Yeah, Michigan. That's right. The high five that America left standing is coming back with some awesome shit in the cannabis front. Are you serious right now?
Michigan's on the way back. Now, if we can just get you guys some clean water, if we can just get you guys some clean water.
You're not wrong.
Pam, a shout out. She's from Michigan and she's Michigan strong. Love you, Aunt Pam. You're the best little gardener.
It's something about the soil, man. It really is. But
no, it really is. Soil, lights. I mean, the soil's really where it's from. You can taste the differences. People do hydro. I mean, you can also do live aquatic grows, but it really comes down to the soil. And a lot of people mess it up. I mean, when you go to compost, it has to be let it sit for a while, because if it's hot, it'll kill your plants. You know what I mean? And then you're going to be just discouraged, and you won't know what happened. You know what I mean? And again, you can get
aquaponics.
Yeah, there's aquaponics. Yep.
With actual fish and like all of the feces and all of that good stuff that gets recycled into the compost.
Yes, it works. It works amazingly well because it's nitrogen. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's funny you should mention that. So a year ago, a buddy of mine's like, "Hey man, I need you to come over and check out my plants. Like something's going on." And I'm like, "What the fuck is why is he asking me? I haven't grown weed since high school. Like, no, like I don't know anything about this." And I mean, that's where I got my medicine from. And so I went over to his house and I'm like, holy shit, they're like 14 feet tall. I'm like, how are they so like, it blew my mind. Cause you think 7-8 feet and like, I've grown weed. I was like, why are these things, massive? He's like, oh dude, it's cause I use the pond water. I just go down there. I go out in the morning, go fishing, get me a couple of buckets of water with the fish poop from the muck at the bottom, feed it to my plants. And that's pretty much it. He was like, there's a couple of advanced nutrients that I use here and there, but he goes, when they need it.
Yep.
For the most part, it's super subservient, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, it works.
And I mean, so what he did was he made some clones off those plants and started feeding the local wildlife. Because he noticed, he noticed that he had more than 12 outside, but he has the permits and stuff like that. He was a caregiver, he's fine. Well within his limits. But he noticed that the animals were climbing the fences and digging under the fences to eat at his cannabis plants. So, you can make the perimeter as strong as you want. At the same time, he's like, well, I'm not going to say no to Mother Nature. If she wants her deers or her, raccoons or possums to eat it, then they need it, clearly. So he grew some farther out in the thicket. They didn't even mess with his plants anymore. He's got lights and cameras and everything. And they didn't even touch them. Those other plants, however, they didn't make it. They didn't make it at all. They took it down to the root, man. I'm telling you.
Here's the thing, though. Oh my goodness, I love every single thing about that. Like it's an ecosystem.
And then he shot the deer. But the point is, that's it's the circle of nature. I can't say that the deer got as high when we ate the venison, but it tasted a lot better than I thought it would.
We are what you eat, man. I mean, you see it in food all the time when we talk about like farm raised to being stuck in a pen, right? Oh, yeah. There's a different everything to it, right? Textures and obviously a lot of people don't talk about this enough is the way you kill an animal. You know what I mean? If the animal gets, it's like when you hunt deer, if you shoot a deer and it runs, hours through the woods and you're chasing it, the natural adrenaline is going to toughen up the meat. So when it finally dies, it's going to probably be a little bit more not so tender meat, right?
Yeah.
You
want to take that animal out as quickly as you can,
peacefully. Yeah.
Think about ethics here, man. If tables were turned, would you want to suffer? No, that's not what it's about. That's a sport, and it's about harvesting that animal as a part of your diet. That's what separates. That's where hunting gets a bad rap sometimes. But dude, I don't hunt every year, you know, and I hunt when I can, but I'll tell you this, I eat what I kill. You know, that's what it is. If somebody's hungry and they're like, I ask them, do you eat red meat? Yeah. Do you like it? Oh, I'll tear me up some venison. All right, cool. I'll feed them. You know, I have a chance to feed them. You know what I'm saying? So that's the point of it. It's part of your diet. It is what it is. And again, if I could confirm that every deer that I kill only eats hemp stalks, yeah, I would probably go hemp only venison, if you will. That's a good market for you right there. You know, if you
Farm raised.
start throwing, dude, hunters would love you if you took your hemp scraps and fed it to the local wildlife and it drew in deer. Hell yeah. Whether or not that's considered baiting, we'll talk about that. But you know, let's the DNR get high and figure that one out. You know what I mean? The point is, you know, it's
the wrong girl. I'm anti-hunting.
Oh, and that's fine. And again, mad respect to those people too. But at the same time, you know, it is a way of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can't just because, with all due respect, just because you don't believe in it, you know what I'm saying, doesn't mean somebody else doesn't. And that's just it. We can't take it away forever.
Here's the thing. I don't not believe in it. Canada was built on an economy
absolutely
of fur trade and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I believe in respectful, clean, beautiful hunting.
Yeah.
Do I want my dog, my Belgian Malinois, who looks like a coyote, to get shot? No.
No.
Do I want teenagers who think that they know how to wield a gun on my property? No. But I respect it.
Right.
I don't do it.
Right. And that's fine. And here's the thing. And this right here is the biggest, most important thing. And again, it comes from soil if you really draw it back down. But we can disagree and still respect each other. That's the point.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. And that's my point. As much as I respect you and I respect that and I see your point of view, am I still going to go shoot a deer? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But the point is,
you are. Heck yes,
I know what the business arrow of that barrel does.
For shooting said deer? No, because they know
exactly.
you're a good person.
You know, I understand what the barrel under that, gun does. I know where the business end is. I know that if I don't, I know. That's the point. I know, because I'm not just, hey man, let me go Instagram my entire hunt. No, that's not hunting. You know what I'm saying? You're making a mockery out of that animal's death and sacrifice to you,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. Like, do I have any mounts? No, I don't. You know why? Because I will take a picture of my kill, of course. That's my memory of that hunt, because each hunt is different. Okay. It's not a sports thing. It's a hunter thing, and from there, I then harvest the animal all the way down to the fur. I've given local furs to local actual Indian tribes here. They love them. They pay for them sometimes, and that's great. The butcher that I take my deer to have it processed, because I can't do it in the town without scaring some kids. You know what I mean? I give him the fur because he's Saginaw tribe Indian. So, there you go. Go ahead. He has a permit to have that and use it for his rituals. That's fantastic. I say rituals, like whatever they do with them. That's it's cool. I take the antlers and give them to my dogs. They're amazing dog bones. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you can go to the store and buy them. They're $29 for 3 inches. And I have a whole rack of them now. You know what I'm saying? I definitely give them it's a year's worth of dog bones. So all of that animal gets used. You know what I'm saying? I wish that, again, hunting was one of those things like, yes, there's a good side to it, and then there's a bad side to it. You know what I'm saying? I wish both of our concepts, both of our perspectives on the subject matter were taught to people, not just this is wrong and this is right. There needs to be some gray area. You know what I mean? There needs to be some blending of that. And that's where I'm at with it, But I feel that it's necessary to understand the people that are advocating for it, whatever side it might be, fully understand the subject matter. You know what I'm saying? One person I don't agree with right now in Michigan is doing something a little bit different. Ted Nugent, great guy, love him. It's just
we're going there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. Listen. Calm down. That's all I'm going to tell him. That's all I'm going to tell him. It's just calm down a little bit. That's all I'm going to say. Listen.
Simmer down.
We're very fired up in Michigan. We are. Flint water, the whole nine, Detroit. I'm not going to lie to you. But at the same time, we kind of let our emotions get a hold of us sometimes, and it is what it is. You need to take emotion out of situations like that, y'all, and look at it logically. There's a person that's trying to tell you something different. You best listen. You understand? Learn something today. And that's really what it is. Without shutting the hell up and listening to another person, you know, that we've shown that people, yeah, we interrupted each other a few times. That's just it. We're all excited. But at the same time, we had to have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. Okay. This conversation needed to be had because we need to show other people that we can have this exact same conversation. And from these conversations, you're right, we're going to pioneer some shit. We need to teach people that it's okay to understand and believe, you know, different sides of the fence. Doesn't mean you're still living in the same neighborhood, right?
I'm on that team. You let me know what I can do to help. Our good friends in Canada, we're really sorry.
Oh my God, don't do that. Don't do that. That's hilarious. No. Okay. I've got some friends that live up in the UP. Okay. That's about as Canada as it fucking gets. I'll be honest with you. And they started saying sorry as a joke because of trailer.
It's not a joke to us.
No, I know it's not.
It's not a joke to us.
He started it as a joke, so much so that that's how he says it now.
Fair.
He's like, man, I'm sorry. I'm like, wait, what? Like, and it throws me because I watch a lot of I love Canadian humor, dude. You know, was it CBC up there? Love that. You know, anytime I go up to my cabin, which is
their shows are better.
I get the Canadian channels and I'm like, yeah, what's going on in Ontario right now? You know what I'm saying? I love it. I would move to Canada like that. The point is, I love Michigan. It'll always be my home. I need to be able to come back and forth, but I don't want to be here right now. Cannabis game, yes. Politically, absolutely not. The point is, that's just it. Like, I'm going to go with what science says. You understand? Like, I'm going to go with what science says. Damn, it feels good to be a Michigan gangster. I mean, dude.
Wait, hold on. Let me read that. This is so professional, but I need a photo of that.
I will send you a picture of it. It's the same one that Clipper has. That's all.
Very unprofessional, very off cue.
It's fine.
Photo.
It's dude, it's a hellfire. It really is right now, and it's really sad that we have a president currently that incited a capture of our governor and then denounced them. It's really, really pathetic that it's gotten to that point. Our governor is under fire for a lot of stuff politically that she's just trying to save her people. You know, that's what it comes down to. We have people that are right behind those other people looking to kidnap said governor still. And it's just like, dude, can we all just smoke a fucking joint and calm down? Like, seriously, like, calm down. This is how I'm sorry?
Well, or just pass legislation.
Yeah.
If you don't succeed, we're on that team. Can we
exactly? And it's all about, you know, it's all about just politics. And that's just the thing. I don't want to be part of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not.
You are, and we all are, and I agree with you. And to your point, it's so true because we all kind of, even if cannabis, I guess, weirdly not renowned, although it is a huge focal point for all of our governing bodies, everyone needs to make a choice and move forward. I really hope that we all make the right choice.
Just make an educated choice. That's all I ask. You know, get
based off science
information. Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of people will preconceive notions, or they'll they'll assume something, but instead of like actually even researching their assumption, they just implement it.
If you don't want me to have a preconceived notion of me putting my foot in your ass, you might want to think about avoiding the whole situation entirely. You feel me? Do a little bit of research. That's really what I got to say to people. You know, listen. You know, let's be smarter about this, okay? I
genuinely agree with you.
That's what it is, man. Because you're gonna pop up,
to be smacked,
say some dumb shit. It's gonna make you look stupid. You know, I got to move on with my life, and that's gonna bring you down. You know, or you're gonna talk some shit that you just can't back up or know nothing about. You know, in which case, in my mind, will devalue you. I no longer want to pay attention to you. I'm gonna switch that channel. You know, and that's where it's at. Like, I'm up here advocating for cure.
My opinion is, if you're not educated on the topic and you're not educated about the choice that you're making, I genuinely don't feel that you should have the right to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's sad.
It's
Pass the
not
test to vote.
Pathetic. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I'm just gonna pretty much, keep smoking weed and hoping that it just goes away.
Right.
But
Again, it's
do
all
know that
surrounds.
if I've got to put my foot down, don't bring that to my front door. That's where I'm at with it, man. Because it's just like, if you want to have that problem, you guys handle it. I ain't got no monkey in that circus.
Right. No, I mean, if they
well,
can't appreciate an opinion.
It's not my monkey.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, some people just aren't open-minded. Some people
Yeah.
you just can't have that conversation with
Yeah,
because they
exactly.
won't allow
That
it. You know what I mean?
conversation that keeps coming up. That conversation.
May I just touch on a point
Sure.
that this started off as the most incredible cannabis discussion about regulations and all that good stuff. The fact that our world, and we're in a pandemic, has come to this point literally is leading people that would typically be in different corners of the world to come forward and talk about genuinely the same thing.
Mhm.
So if nothing else, I think that's a beautiful thing, and I appreciate your guys'
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
In there every
You
day.
know, tonight's discussion was one that definitely, I knew a little bit more about. I mean, I don't know a lot about soil. I won't lie to you. Okay, it's not my job to know about soil.
Ooh, it's my job to know, and I love everything about it.
That's perfect. You have your spot. You have your position. You do it well. Now, if you want to grow something from that soil and you want to know how to cook it, it's a different story. You feel me? That's a different story. So it's dude, I cook fiddleheads. I will go out and pick out fiddleheads. You know what fiddleheads are? Small little baby ferns.
No, wait, hold on. I'm like gonna throw my phone. I'm so fired up. Do you know what puffballs are?
Yes, you can eat them.
I know, and I have them growing on my property, but I cannot find them this season. Tell me about fennel heads.
So fennel heads are basically ferns that are it's just a fern. It's just a fern, like just as it's popped out of the pod. You can eat that big. It's all that. It's like, think of it as like broccoli, basically. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is. Okay. If you take those, you clean them off, you clean them out a little bit because there are some critters and some bugs. You want to get rid of it. I will in warm salt water, then dunk them immediately in cold water, and then I can store them. You see what I'm saying? It's just like washing your bud. That's what it is. So if you do that, you saute them with a little bit of olive oil because you want it kind of a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of garlic, some shallots, white wine, and a little bit of salt and pepper. Yeah, I mean, it's delicious with some butter.
Yep. You just gotta make sure they're cooked though, because they can be poisonous.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Vermont chefs, U.S. chefs coming in the house.
Yeah, and it's funny because that exact same thing, I'm going to be cooking over in Europe actually. So this is a worldwide thing I'm doing.
Hey, where in Europe? We're going.
I think it's starting in London. I think, but it's huge right now because a lot of American chefs want British cooks and American people want British chefs and British people want American chefs. Well, it's funny because a lot of people right now want American chefs, period, because they're cooking with what? Yep, cannabis. And they're like, wait, you can cook with this? Yeah, but here's the thing. What people don't understand is the fact that there's these tribes, there's people all around the world that have been doing this for years that are afraid to say anything because their governments will literally kill them.
Well, that's the big stigma, right? That's why a lot of people, I think, don't.
Exactly.
You talk about jobs. We talked about different areas where people just don't admit it, but they're stoners, right?
Exactly.
They can't. They'll lose their jobs.
Mention, if you look at Amsterdam, it's one thing that you've got to understand. We did adopt a lot of stuff from Amsterdam when we made our legalities. Okay. For example, in Amsterdam, you have to buy, you can't buy booze right next to cannabis. It can't be done. You can go downstairs and buy, the cannabis there, then go up and buy a beer. That's a different story. So there's laws, and you'll notice that if you ever go to Amsterdam. I've never been there. I've researched the hell out of it. My girlfriend's been there. She told me what was what, because trust me, I live with a stoner. Okay. Like if there's weed, she's going to find it. If it's in a different country, 10 minutes. That's all it takes her. So you know damn well I'm going with her because she's going to be able to sniff it out with some kind of weed hound. The point is, she told me what happened. So if you just look at all these countries becoming legal, Israel's got its own medical marijuana market now. You know what I'm saying? Taiwan, it's coming. Australia's getting it on the ballot, and all of these legal things. So you're telling me that people are suffering from COVID right now worldwide and curing it with cannabis? Yeah, that's what I heard.
Oh my goodness. I am super incredibly on your team. When I went to Indonesia, like exactly to your point, Cannabis as a whole is super prohibited, not even remotely found. And it's do you know about the Bali 9?
No.
We will table that, but long story short, it sucked. It essentially sucked, and bringing any type of cannabis or whatever. But when I was there owning a cannabis company, I noticed that hemp legitimately grows feral.
Right.
I actually miraculously finagled a meeting with one of the counselors in Bali who was trying to talk about hemp growing feral. And he still wishes to remain anonymous, which sucks because I'm so proud of him, but I respect that. A year later, they actually now, because it was under Muslim belief, year later, they're now saying that they're looking into letting hemp grow feral and letting it be cultivated.
Do it.
Because I sent the Canadian deck of what we can do with hemp. So he then, I guess, proceeded to tell all of his good counselor people about what we were up to in North America and how it's boosting our economy. And now they're looking at it. So it's a small step for man. But yeah, we're happy about it.
And so, let's say that person, you said Bali. Okay. So I look at it this way. I want to become the butcher so I can get a good look at a T-bone steak. You feel me? That's what it is. So I'd rather take the butcher's word for it. I'm not gonna stick my head up the cow's ass like I earlier, like I said earlier. But I'd want to fly to Bali and see their perspective from their world, why they're reaching out, what they're sharing. I want to see the culture.
Incredible. You would love it.
For example, some American had to go to Amsterdam to see how they have their laws and how it was structured. Damn well they spent 6 months there. They damn well only remembered 3 because they were so high. But the point is, okay, they had to learn that system and that culture. They had to take it in, drink it in, if you will. Then they brought it back to the United States.
Even in Amsterdam, as much as we talk about and we praise it, it's a segregated culture.
Absolutely.
That's what people have to understand. It's a segregated culture. Yep. It's like, there's different segregations all throughout Europe, right? Where there's like a block somewhere where you can go and it's all nothing but cannabis. But the minute you walk off that block, the laws change a little bit, right? The acceptance changes a little bit. You see that a lot. What's that?
Sorry to interrupt you. Oh my gosh, Sophia. Exactly to that point. She almost just broke my desk. Exactly to that point where you go into those hubs and you see, okay, cannabis is very appreciated and respected, whatever the case may be. Then you move a different block. That is exactly the case. Where one step you can get. I remember walking down a street in Indonesia. Every single person offered me every narcotic you could possibly imagine. Legitimately, everyone. And I was like, what? No, I'm looking for marijuana. Immediately, no. So it, like you said, it's that shift of like, well, we can't find marijuana, but we can super do opiates in the bathroom. I don't know.
Well, let's think about the markets for a minute, though. An opioid market is far more financially beneficial than a cannabis market. So why bother with it? And then in a state where, again, you can get by tests, you can pass through stuff. A lot of these guys don't even use the drugs that they're selling, but the profits are much higher, so the risk is maybe greater, but it's worth it, right? So why even bother with weed? Who's really looking for weed, right? There's a smaller market until the last few years. Now I think everybody's looking for weed because now it's socially acceptable.
At the end of the day, what we're really talking about here is being pioneers for what we're being pioneers for. We're learning more and bringing it to y'all, so we can educate you. It's all about education and promotion. That's what it is. Let's learn from this. At the same time, we are learning from this. Imagine, like you guys said, 20 years ago, we wouldn't be talking right now. You understand? It would have been taboo to say. In the next 20 years, they're going to look back on what we're saying and go, okay, yeah, that's who we learned from. Can we be proud of that? I don't know. I'm going to be pretty baked when that happens. But the point is, I hope so.
Proud of that.
Well, look at the technology where it brings us. Well, I mean, who would have thought a year ago we could be having a show like this?
Exactly. Exactly.
So where's
I
it going
would've
to
been
be in
like,
the
I'm
next
gonna
5 to
go
10
another-
years?
yeah.
Way when I was 16, I said that marijuana would be available by vending machines. I called it. I said it when I was 16, and here we are.
And you lost your IP.
Still,
Damn
yeah.
it. But no, I mean, obviously it's going to get to that point. I believe it. I think you're going to find it, there's even in Canada right now, they're looking to see if they can put it into drugstores, you know what I mean? And just get it not a prescription anymore. You can just go up and buy it like you can Tylenol. Go right to aisle number 7 and it's right next to Motrin, you know what I mean? And there'll be a bunch of different products that will be, designed for specific usages, so they can put it in every aisle, right? You know what I mean?
But here's my issue with that, and I do love everything about that, because like we're talking about consumerism, mass shifting, all that good stuff. What actually I don't love about that is the price margin.
Yeah.
The MSRP that they're going to put on that is going to not allow people who genuinely truly need CBD, who don't want to partake in THC, it's not going to allow them to afford it.
No.
Right
and
now,
that's
500 milligram tincture is $180 in Canada.
Yeah, that's my point. So it's and here's the thing: in the tinctures, let's say that who would you rather trust? A cannabis farmer who makes said tincture, who pulls it straight from the soil, versus Bayer.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
Oh,
Like,
my goodness. Don't get me started on Bayer.
But you see my point, though. That's
Bayer Monsanto.
That's why we're doing what we're doing. We're going the opposite direction.
Right, it's Bayer Monsanto now. So I mean, obviously, if you pay attention, Bayer Monsanto is working in cannabis already. So don't be surprised when it happens. You know what I mean? It's just not in this country. But they have projects going. So don't be surprised when they move into that shit, because they're dumb not to. I mean, we're all going that way. The country's leading that way. The globe's leading that way. We're seeing Israel and all these reports, and everybody's going to the medical minded thing. So it's a viable entity now, right?
Let's turn the planet green again.
Right.
Still,
hopefully it will.
On that note,
pardon my language. Sorry, Nana. I know you're watching this. I love you. But we are literally unfucking our planet that we fucked.
Trying, and it can be really beneficial again in that whole climate control, the change, the things that we're seeing, the issues that we're seeing. Like, it can actually be a very beneficial thing to utilize, especially when we talk about the phytoremediations, and to utilize what we have for agricultural crop. Look at how we're doing things. It's changed things. There's different machinery out there that will be a lot safer for our soils. We get our soils regenerative again. We can deplete some of this carbon we have going on in our ozone layer. Our plants breathe, man. The more we can do for it and the longer we can make our soil last, the better, right? Now, it's not as easy as just throwing dead things into the soil, right? So that being said, look into it. Check out remediation, soil rejuvenation, right? If you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can always reach out to Danyka at CannaCollective Incorporated. She's located in Stratford, Ontario. We're going to get the show wrapped up here, guys. We went way over. I'm sure we all got something to do here. But anyways, Danyka, tell everybody how they can reach out to you again. I know I just kind of gave it away, but again, thank you.
Oh my gosh, it truly was my pleasure. I had such an amazing time talking with you guys. If there's anybody internationally or locally, globally, all that good stuff, let me know. We do have a lot of good contacts that if I don't know the answer, I will definitely find somebody who does. CannaCollective.inc at gmail.com, or obviously on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. And Chef, thank you again for the strain of the week. Another awesome strain.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wait, hold on. Super quickly, what are you cooking for me?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. What do you actually, you know what? I tell you what, I can do something. I'm going to do a CBD infused homemade tomato soup with a grilled cheese crouton tomorrow on Twitch Live. Actually, it's funny you should mention that, with Chef Chelsea Sargent Lira from MasterChef Season 9.
Nice.
Hey, you heard it here, CannaCollective.
Yeah.
If you want the recipe, I might give it to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I can actually send you the recipe. Yeah, she sent it to me. I have to go grocery shopping tomorrow before we link up and get it done. But yeah.
Amazing.
All right. Well, check out Chef Ronnie, guys, tomorrow on Twitch. We're going to wrap it up. We got Luna Stower coming back on next week,
Oh, hell yeah.
which will be a great show. I'm excited about that. And thank you. The soil's a big issue, guys. We don't talk about it enough. So find out more, do some research, and hopefully we can turn this planet around one plant at a time.
Let's do
One
it.
plant at a time, and watch Kiss the Ground.
Yes. Great documentary, guys.
Smoke
Watch
weed
Kiss
while
the
you
Ground.
do it.
Right.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. We're going to end it now. Let's see if we can just do this. All right. We're done.
Oh my gosh. Is it just us?
Yes. Hold on. We're still live. Hold on.